Neon lights cut through the urban high-rise buildings at night like sharp knives. In the top-floor office of Ye Chen Design headquarters, the air is filled with the smell of expensive Italian leather and the faint bitterness of coffee. Qiao Zhixia stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, holding her cell phone with her slender fingers. The anonymous text message on the screen was like a poisonous snake. I got all your design drafts. When the stock market opens tomorrow, Ye Chen's stock will collapse. If you want to survive, sell it to me. The corners of her lips twitched slightly, and her cold face looked even sharper than a knife under the shadow of the lamp. The office door was pushed open. Assistant Sheng Yan stepped on stiletto heels, and her rapid footsteps echoed on the smooth marble floor. She held a stack of documents with a flattering smile on her face. President Gu Han has spread rumors again, saying that our autumn and winter series were plagiarized from him. Industry forums have exploded. Investors have been bombarded with phone calls. Look. Shut up. Qiao Zhixia's voice fell like ice, and Sheng Yan's smile froze instantly. She took a half-step back involuntarily, and a trace of imperceptible resentment flashed in her eyes. She bit her lip and her voice trembled. President, the security problem has become serious. Last week, designer Xiao Li's car was smashed. The police said it was an accident, but who believes it? You need to hire a bodyguard. Qiao Zhixia turned around, her black slim-fitting suit outlined her proud curves, and her falcon-like eyes glanced at Sheng Yan. People from the high-end security company will be here soon. Let me know, let's assemble in the conference room. Her tone was unquestionable. Sheng Yan nodded and exited as if fleeing. There was a slight trembling sound when the door closed. Half an hour later, the conference room designed by Ye Chen was brightly lit, and the air was filled with the smell of nervous sweat and the luxurious fragrance of cologne. A dozen bodyguard candidates stood in a row, varying in height, fat and thin, but all of them had sharp eyes like wolves. Qiao Zhixia pushed the door open and walked in. The whole place was silent for a moment. All the candidates looked at her. Some subconsciously straightened their backs, while others swallowed saliva with their Adam's apple rolling. A middle-aged security manager wiped the sweat from his forehead and came forward flatteringly. Mr. Qiao, this is our elite list. Everyone has experienced commercial assassination missions. Stop talking nonsense. Qiao Zhixia sat on the main seat with her legs crossed. The stockings on her slender legs reflected the cold light. Gu Han's poisonous snake is eyeing me. The design draft was stolen and car accidents occurred frequently. I want an absolutely loyal tool, not a vase. Start testing. The manager nodded and bowed, and the first alternate stepped forward. He was as burly as a bear. He loudly announced his resume. I have protected 3 rich people and blocked 5 gunshots. All the alternates nodded in agreement. Sheng Yan whispered beside her. Looks so reliable. Qiao Zhixia sneered. Sheng Yan, give him the design draft. Sheng Yan handed over a stack of confidential documents, and the burly man had just taken it when Qiao Zhixia suddenly pressed the button under the table. The lights in the conference room suddenly went out, and a cold light flashed in the darkness. A simulated blade went straight to the back of his neck. He was slow to react. He only had time to turn around when a dart thrown by Qiao Zhixia personally grazed the shell of his ear. Blood dripped from his ear. When the lights came back on, he turned pale and knelt down. President, spare your life. I didn't guard against it. The whole audience gasped, and the eyes of the candidates were as wide as copper bells. Someone murmured, "This female devil. Did it herself?" Sheng Yan's face was pale, her fingers tightened the hem of her skirt, and jealousy flashed in her eyes. It's too cruel. Next one. Qiao Zhixia's voice was as calm as water, but it sent chills down one's spine. One after another, alternates came on stage. Either they couldn't dodge and were assassinated, or they couldn't protect their files and were robbed. The conference room was filled with gasps and whispers. The smell of sweat was getting stronger and stronger. Some people's legs were weak and they left the room. Who dares to take this job? Until the last one. The door opened and a tall figure blocked the light.
Ye Chen Lalketin.
His 1.92-meter body was like an iron tower. His black tactical uniform was wrapped in explosive muscle lines. His face was as cold as a stone sculpture, and his eyes were deep and unwavering. The security manager's voice trembled. Ye Chen, a former Special Forces soldier resume, single-handedly wiped out a commercial kidnapping gang, defused bombs with his bare hands, protected 2 national dignitaries and never failed. The candidates whispered, "This guy looks like a god of death. I heard that he can smash bulletproof glass with one punch." Shang Yan's eyes lit up and she leaned close to Qiao Zhixia's ear. "President, this is a good one. His annual salary is astronomical, right?" Qiao Zhixia waved her hand. "Test." Ye Chen took the design draft and stood still without saying a word. The lights went out, and the sword flashed again in the darkness. His figure flickered like a ghost, and he blocked it gently with his palm. The dart was held between his fingers, making a slight crackling sound. When the light came on, he placed the manuscript firmly on the table and looked directly at Qiao Zhixia without any unnecessary movement. The whole place was dead silent. The mouths of the candidates were wide open. Someone took a step back and knocked over the chair with a loud noise. "This? Impossible." He didn't even look at it. The security manager was sweating profusely and his voice was trembling. "Mr. Qiao, he is a monster." Qiao Zhixia's pupils shrank slightly, and there was something strange in her heart, but her face showed no emotion. "Annual salary is 50 million, contract signed. Rules: stay at all times, obey absolutely, and execute orders unconditionally. Breach of contract, death." She pushed the contract, and Ye Chen glanced at it and signed, with handwriting like the edge of a sword. "From now on you are my shadow. Get out, everyone else." The candidates fled in confusion as if they had been granted amnesty. The conference room door slammed shut, leaving only Shang Yan with wide eyes. "President, is it so expensive? What if he—" "Get out." Qiao Zhixia gave her a cold look. Shang Yan bit her lip and stepped back. On the first day of employment, Ye Chen followed him like a ghost. Inside the Xiaochun Design Building, he first silently scanned the hall, his sharp gaze like a scanner, stopping at the corner of the elevator. In the blind area, install a hidden camera. The maintenance man's face turned pale when he heard this, and the tools in his hand clinked to the ground. "Sir, how do you know? That's an old one." Qiao Zhixia raised her eyebrows and said, "Tear it down." Ye Chen stepped forward and took it off in 2s and 2s. As expected, there was a miniature lens inside. He crushed it and threw it into the trash can without saying a word. In the office, the employees whispered, "The new bodyguard is so scary. The look in his eyes just now made my legs weak. I heard he is a killing machine. Mr. Qiao has gone big this time." Ye Chen ignored him and stood beside the door like a sculpture. At noon, Qiao Zhixia tried. During the meeting, she deliberately knocked over a cup of coffee and accidentally spilled the hot liquid directly towards the confidential documents at her feet. The employees exclaimed, "President, be careful." But Ye Chen had already passed by like lightning, picking up the documents with one hand and steadying the cup with the other without spilling a drop. The bitter aroma of coffee filled the air. He dried the documents and put them back, then took a step back. Secretary Xiaomei's eyes widened. She covered her mouth and whispered, "Oh my God, his hand speed is like in the movie." Other employees whispered, "The bodyguard has become a Superman. Mr. Qiao is so lucky." Qiao Zhixia's heart moved slightly, and she snorted coldly, "It's still passable." In the afternoon, Ye Chen inspected the office, pointing to the gap in the window. "Sniper point, replace the bulletproof glass." The engineer was stunned when he heard this. "Sir, who dares to do this on the top floor of the building?"
Gu Han's men.
Ye Chen shortened it to 4 words. The engineer was sweating profusely and quickly recorded, "Yes, do it right away." As night fell, Qiao Zhixia sat alone in the office, rubbing her temples. The phone vibrated with an unknown number. She picked it up, and a cold laugh came from the other end. "Qiao Zhixia, I love the design. Tomorrow your car will explode. If you want to talk, come to my place." Gu Han's voice penetrated her eardrums like poison. She clenched the phone, her knuckles turning white. "Gu Han, you are looking for death. Haha, the queen is also afraid of death? Can the bodyguard save you?" The phone was hung up and the office fell into dead silence. She stood up and walked to the window, overlooking the dimly lit city, her heart as heavy as lead. Behind him, Ye Chen hid in the shadows, his headphones recording every word and every sentence. His fists tightened slightly, Murderous intent flashed in his eyes, but his face remained calm. The next morning in the design conference room, the air was filled with the fresh fragrance of new fabrics and the heat of coffee. Qiao Zhixia sat in the main seat, and Ye Chen stood by the door like an iron gate. The designers came in with manuscripts. Shang Yan smiled sweetly and handed a stack of them. "President, this is the main draft for autumn and winter. It's perfect." Qiao Zhixia opened it and found that the first page was an old work from last season, with obvious signs of plagiarism. The whole place fell silent, and she threw it on the table with a sound like thunder. "Shang Yan, what kind of garbage is this? Did you hand it over to the wrong one? Or did you do it on purpose?" Shang Yan's face turned pale, her legs were weak and she knelt down, her voice trembling like chaff. President, it's not me. I must have taken it by mistake. Spare me." The designers widened their eyes and gasped. "Oh my God, Assistant Shang is finished." Mr. Qiao's eyes are so scary, as if he wants to eat someone. Ye Chen's eyes narrowed and he stared at Shang Yan's back, vaguely aware that something was wrong. Qiao Zhixia stood up, with the momentum of a queen descending, and her stiletto heels made a thumping sound on the floor. "Get up. Find the original manuscript for me, or get out of Xiachan." Shang Yan got up with tears in her eyes and ran out in panic. The conference room was silent except for the employees' breathing and heartbeats. At this moment, there were hurried footsteps outside the door, and an employee rushed in. "President, it's not good. There is a suspicious person downstairs, holding a camera, pointing at your office. Is he Gu Han's bastard?" The whole place exploded and panic spread. In the conference room, panic spread like wildfire. The designers' faces were as pale as paper. Some people gripped the edge of the table, their knuckles turning white and making a slight creaking sound. The air filled with the stench of sweat and the fresh aroma of fabric suddenly became stuffy. The employee's voice was still trembling and echoing. "President, that guy is wearing sunglasses and is sneaky. He must be sent by Gu Han to record black material. If we are exposed for plagiarism." Qiao Zhixia's eyes flashed like blades, and the sound of her stiletto heels on the ground was like a war drum. The moment she stood up, the whole place was silent, and only her breathing was like the sound of a bellows. "What are you panicking about?" Ye Chen's figure had moved like a ghost, leaving only an afterimage when the door opened and closed. The employees in the conference room stared at each other. "Where is he?" He disappeared in the blink of an eye like a ghost. Shang Yan crawled back from the crack in the door with tears on her face, and her voice was still crying. "President, I found the original manuscript. It's definitely not plagiarism." But her eyes couldn't help but glanced outside the door. A hint of haze flashed through. In the hall downstairs, the sun shines through the glass curtains, reflecting the dazzling light. The paparazzi squatted behind the flower bed. The camera lens pointed at the top floor like a viper's tongue. The clicking sound was continuous, sweat slid down his temples, mixed with the smell of cheap tobacco. Suddenly, an iron-like hand grabbed his shoulder from behind, and the joints crackled. He screamed, and the camera flew out of his hand, hitting the ground and the lenses shattered like ice. Ye Chen looked down at him with a stern face without any emotion, and a low voice that echoed like hell. "Who sent you?" The paparazzi's face turned pale, and the smell of urine instantly filled the air. His legs went weak and he knelt down. "Gu, Mr. Gu." He said that if he photographed Mr. Qiao's scandal, he would get $5. 100,000. Ye Chen crushed the memory card and threw it into his collar. The paparazzi was so frightened that he ran away. The lady at the front desk widened her eyes, covered her mouth and shouted, "Oh my God, this bodyguard. Can you solve it in 1 second?" Gu Han kicked the iron plate this time. Ye Chen returned to the conference room in just 3 minutes, holding a broken camera in his hand and throwing it on the table with a muffled sound. The whole audience gasped, and the designer's eyes bulged like bells. Someone murmured, "Monster. How did he do that?" That paparazzi downstairs was still laughing just now, but now he ran away crying for his father. Qiao Zhixia's lips curled up slightly and she said calmly, "Continue the meeting. Shang Yan, after verifying the manuscript, go and make copies." Shang Yan bit her lip and nodded, with a flash of resentment in her eyes. From that day on, Qiao Zhixia strictly ordered Ye Chen to stay close to her 24 hours a day. not leaving even an inch, even guarding the door of the toilet. Ye Chen nodded silently and turned into a shadow. In the Xiachuan building, employees whispered, "Mr. Qiao's bodyguard is like a humanoid radar." Last night, he patrolled the building and found 3 blind spots, all of which were sealed. I heard that he didn't sleep all night and didn't blink. It's scary. During the day, the workplace was like a battlefield. In the afternoon, when Qiao Zhixia went out to negotiate, paparazzi swarmed like flies, the flashlights were as dazzling as a rainstorm, and the screams were deafening. "Mr. Qiao, is it true that I plagiarized Guhan? The design draft was stolen. Let me tell you the inside story." She frowned. The bodyguard formation was scattered, reporters crowded forward, the microphone was poked in the face, and the pungent perfume smell hit her face. Suddenly, Ye Chen was thrust into the car like an iron wall, with one arm sweeping across. The reporters fell to the ground like bowling balls, screaming in agony. He protected Qiao Zhixia into the car. When the car door closed, there was a wailing outside. "The arm is broken. This madman." In the car, Qiao Zhixia snorted coldly on the surface. "It's still passable." But a warm current surged in her heart. The touch of the iron arms around her waist was as hard as steel but warm and permeating. The skin under the stockings was faintly hot. She glanced at him, and Ye Chen looked straight ahead without any waves. "Humph, of course the tool you spend money on must be worth it." The driver peeked out of the rearview mirror, his Adam's apple rolling. "Miss, this bodyguard is amazing." In that moment, 10 reporters flew away. In the afternoon fitting room, the crisis arose again. Qiao Zhixia changed into new autumn and winter clothes. The silk slid across her skin like a lover's touch, and she was stunningly stunning in the mirror. Sheng Yin came in with the tea and said with a sweet smile, "President, this tea is soothing." The cup tilted and the hot tea splashed at Qiao Zhixia's feet. Glass shards flew like hidden weapons and went straight to her calf. Designer Xiaomei screamed, "President, be careful." Sheng Yin pretended to be panicked. "Oh, my hand slipped." Ye Chen swooped over and kicked the glass table away with his kick, causing the debris to scatter like rain. He picked up Qiao Zhixia, clasping his iron arm tightly around his waist, and spreading out the palm of his other hand to catch all the dregs without any scratches on his skin. The bitter fragrance of the tea filled the air. He placed her firmly and took a step back. Xiaomei's eyes widened and her voice trembled. "His hands are like steel plates? The glass shards have all melted." Other employees whispered, "Did Assistant Shang do it on purpose? His eyes are so vicious. Brother Yi is so handsome when he saves the scene. The president is blushing?" Shang Yan's face was pale. She knelt down to pick up the trash, and said in an aggrieved voice, "President, I didn't mean it. Mr. Yi is so powerful with an annual salary of 50 million. Doesn't he have ambitions? What if he is bribed by Gu Han?" The whole place fell silent. The employees looked confused and someone whispered, "Yes, the bodyguard came from an unknown source, and Mr. Qiao believed him?" Qiao Zhixia's eyes were cold, and she turned to Ye Chen. She said, "You are ambitious?" Ye Chen looked directly at her, his voice as calm as a mountain. "No, my contract is only with you." His eyes were deep and unwavering, but they were like an iron oath that broke his heart. Qiao Zhixia's heart trembled slightly, and she sneered on the surface, "Get lost, Sheng Yan. If you slip up next time, you will be fired directly." Sheng Yan bit her lip and retreated, her back twisted, her eyes burning with jealousy. The employees breathed a sigh of relief. "Yi Gunyo." One word broke the situation. The way Mr. Qiao looked at him was different. The contractual relationship changes quietly. As night falls, the top-floor office is dimly lit. Qiao Zhixia works overtime until late at night, rubbing her temples. Design drafts are scattered on the table, and fabric samples of the new autumn and winter series are piled up. The air is filled with the residual fragrance of coffee and the warmth of cashmere fabrics. She sighed. Gu Han is a poisonous snake. It's not enough that his manuscript was stolen. There are threats from the stock market and warnings about car bombings. Ye Chen stood in the shadows as silent as a sculpture. She casually threw a piece of fabric to him and said, "As a layman, touch it and see how it feels." Her mocking tone was tentative, anticipating his embarrassment. Ye Chen took it, rubbed it with his fingertips and frowned slightly. Satin silk, loose weaving at the edges, easy to pill. Trends, similar models are outdated at Milan Fashion Week. Paris Spring and Summer Show promote stretch cashmere mixed silk, which is thinner and wrinkle-resistant, suitable for your autumn and winter queen style. His voice was low, professional as a knife, pointed out 3 flaws and attached data. Qiao Zhixia was stunned, and the pen in her hand rolled down, making a crisp tapping sound. She widened her eyes and moved closer to the sample to verify. Sure enough, it was as he said. You, the former Special Forces soldier, still understands fashion? Her heart was shaken, and she softened for the first time. She stood up and made some coffee. The hot and bitter aroma hit her nose and handed it to him. Drink it. You have good taste. Ye Chen took it. His fingertips touched hers lightly, and it trembled like electricity. He lowered his head and said, "Thank you." At that moment, the office light was soft, reflecting her rare tenderness. Employees on the overnight shift peeked and stole. "Brother Yi, does he know how to design?" Mr. Qiao delivered the coffee. "This bodyguard is so hidden." Qiao Zhixia regained her cool appearance. "It's just a tool, don't think too much about it." But the ripples in her heart spread. Returning home late at night, Qiao Zhixia couldn't sleep in the bedroom of the mansion. In the dream, shards of glass were flying, paparazzi were swarming, and the sky was dark. She fell into the abyss of despair, and was suddenly lifted up by iron arms. The figure was as tall as a mountain, and her warm chest blocked all wind and rain. "Ye Chen." She murmured and woke up. Her cheeks were hot and her heartbeat was beating like a drum. The moonlight was shining outside the window, and Ye Chen was standing on the balcony outside the door, his cigarette butt flashing red, his fists clenched, suppressed emotions lurking like a volcano. Early the next morning, the company hall was crowded, and the hot coffee and perfume were luxuriously intertwined in the air. Qiao Zhixia took the stage, tapping the stage with her stiletto heels like a queen. The Autumn and Winter New Product Launch Conference was moved to a seaside attraction, integrating natural inspiration, shocking the industry. The employees in the audience cheered, and the designer's eyes were bright. "The president is domineering. Guhan, go cry." She scanned the audience and called everyone. "Ye Chen, let's go together. Stay close." Ye Chen nodded, and his figure on the stage was like an iron tower. After the silence in the audience, whispers broke out. "The bodyguards are going too? It's so intimate." Assistant Shang's face was livid. His eyes were so sinister. Shang Yan stood in the corner, nails embedded in her palms, resentment coiled like a poisonous snake. "I'm on a business trip. Just in time to start." Qiao Zhixia felt warm in her heart but cold and arrogant on the outside. "Get ready to go. Guhan, come on, I'll be waiting." The audience applauded thunderously. But there was an undercurrent of crisis. During the trip to the scenic spot, the forbidden spark was about to be ignited. The motorcade roared away from the Xiachen building like a giant black beast. The engine roared and shook the ground. The exhaust was mixed with the pungent smell of burnt rubber. Qiao Zhixia was sitting in the back seat, her silk shirt fitting her curves, her stiletto heels tapping lightly on the car floor, and the tall buildings outside the window receding into blurry light and shadow. She glanced at Ye Chen beside her. He occupied half of the space like an iron tower. His breathing was steady and his eyes scanned every following vehicle, like a radar operating. "Guhan's bitch, how dare you follow me?" She sneered, her tone sounding like the crack of a whip. A suspicious car rushed from behind, honking its horn like a wild beast roaring. The sound of impact narrowly missed the rear of the car, and sparks flew everywhere. Xiaomei screamed and covered her ears. It's over, we're dead." Qiao Zhixia gripped the armrest tightly. Her knuckles turned white, and the bloody scene of Xiao Li's car accident flashed in her mind. Suddenly, Ye Chen pushed open the sunroof, his figure shot out like an arrow. Half of his body was hanging in the air, and he kicked the hood of the chasing car. There was a dull sound like metal tearing. The front tire of the car blew out and rolled over, breaking the roadside guardrail, and rolled down the ditch and emitted black smoke. The drivers stared at each other in the rearview mirror and yelled at each other. "Brother Yi is so awesome. He just kicked the car into pieces." Gu Han's men were in trouble this time. The car turned into a discus. The driver Xiao Wang peeked out of the rearview mirror, his Adam's apple rolling. "President, the 2 cars behind are suspicious, with fake license plates, and they have been driving for 2 hours." Assistant Xiaomei screamed from the passenger side. Oh my god, they are speeding up. What should I do if we collide? The air in the whole car suddenly solidified, and the smell of sweat filled the air. Qiao Zhixia frowned and her heart sank. Guhan, this madman really wants the car to explode? Ye Chen's hand had already pressed on the car door, and his voice was as low as a thunderous prelude. Detour. He pointed at the fork in front, and the driver turned the steering wheel sharply. The tires screeched and made black marks, and the car body slid sideways like a knife edge. The convoy stabilized. Qiao Zhixia's breath calmed down. Shock flashed in her eyes. You? Climbed the sunroof? Ye Chen returned to his seat, wiped the dust on his palms and said, Responsibility. Xiao Wang patted the steering wheel excitedly. President, is this bodyguard Superman? The driver in the back car climbed out. His legs were so weak that he peed his pants. Qiao Zhixia's lips curled up slightly, suppressing the ripples in her heart. Passing mark. But the residual warmth from the broad shoulders penetrated into the skin like a brand. A few hours later, at the scenic spot of the ancient seaside town, the setting sun stained the stone steps and alleys like blood, and the sea breeze mixed with the salty smell and the moist smell of bluestone moss hit our faces. Qiao Zhixia rarely took off her shirt and put on a light linen skirt to tour with the group. Under the arch of the stone bridge, she stopped to admire the scenery, with a bright smile on her lips, as pure as a child, with the sun shining on her long hair and shining with golden edges. The designers whispered. The president smiles so beautifully. I've never seen such an expression before. Xiaomei took photos and clicked wildly. This smile is perfect for posting on social media. As night falls, the lanterns in the ancient town flicker red and the tourists are noisy. On the first day of the tour the next day, Qiao Zhixia led the team to climb the tallest stone step tower in the ancient town. The steps were winding and steep, the sound of waves crashing on the shore was thunderous, and the air was hot and humid, sticky and mixed with the smell of fish. The employees were panting, someone slipped and bruised his knee, and the smell of blood filled the air. This staircase is too steep, what if it collapses? Xiaomei complained, wiping her sweat and complaining. Guhan won't bribe anyone to do anything, right? I heard that there were strange workers building the road last night. Sheng Yan followed with a fake smile, and glanced at Ye Chen with a sinister look. President, be careful where you step. This place is not safe. Ye Chen was watching 3 steps away, raising his phone quietly, capturing the smile with the lens, pressing the shutter, and the clicking sound was lost in the wind. His heartbeat was like a war drum, and taboo flames were rising. She had never smiled at him before, and this moment was so real that it hurt. With trembling fingers he deleted the photos, clenching his fists with white knuckles, feeling as depressed as a volcanic abyss. The contract is just a tool, he murmured, his eyes dim. Qiao Zhixia frowned and walked forward, her high-heeled sandals hitting the stone steps crisply. Suddenly she heard the rocks above loosening, and a clicking sound sounded like broken bones. The middle section of the stairs collapsed suddenly, and boulders rolled down like a landslide. Dust covered the sky and everyone screamed, It's collapsed! Run! The employees retreated and crowded, and someone was hit in the leg by gravel. They screamed loudly, and the smell of bloody flesh instantly hit their noses. Qiao Zhixia's feet were in the air. Her body fell backwards, the wind howled, and despair surged in her heart. Guhan. This time it really kills her. Ye Chen jumped out like lightning, sweeping his iron arms to push Xiaomei and the others away. The huge boulder hit the ground, and debris scattered like shrapnel and cut into his sleeves, blood oozing out. He jumped up, risking his life, pressing Qiao Zhixia with his broad body. The two of them rolled down the grassy slope on the side. The rocks and gravel crashed down with a roar. The grass blades and soil flew up, and the sea breeze carried the smell of earth. Finally stopping, she pressed against his chest. Her breath sprang into the crook of his neck, her hot heartbeats intertwined. Her silk skirt was messy and fit his strong contours, and electric currents flowed when the skin touched. The employees' eyes widened at the top of the slope, and their voices trembled like chaff. Brother Ye flew to save the president. All the rocks hit his back. Blood. He was bleeding and still holding on like an iron man. Xiaomei cried. Guhan's men did it. The worker just ran away, masked in black. Sheng Yan's face turned pale, her legs were weak and she knelt down. It's terrible. Mr. Yi, are you okay? There was resentment in her eyes. Qiao Zhixia gasped and pushed his chest away, her cheeks were red. Her heartbeat was like a deer, and she asked, Your phone? Just secretly filmed me? Ye Chen stood up with blood on his back. He ignored the pain and looked directly at her. Yes. Your smile is so real that I will never forget it. Her voice was as low as an oath, and the emotions in her deep eyes were like a tide, and taboos tightened the air. Her heart was churning and she pushed him harder. Contract. You are a tool, don't cross the line. But her fingers touched his chest muscles, and the warmth and hardness penetrated into the bone marrow. She could not ignore the throbbing, and when she stood up, her legs softened and she leaned against him for a moment. Returning to the seaside hotel, the afterglow of dusk falls on the marble floor of the lobby, the sound of waves is faint, and the air is filled with the smell of coconut perfume and sea salt. Sheng Yan came forward with a hot towel, pretending to be concerned. President, are you hurt? The way Mr. Yi hugged you just now was seen by everyone in the panoramic spot. Tomorrow's headlines will definitely be Mr. Qiao's bodyguard's forbidden love. Her voice was sweet, and her eyes were hazy. It's gone viral among the employees. He is quite ambitious to secretly take pictures of your smile. Xiaomei glared at her. Sister Sheng, you are provocative again. Brother Yi is a hero for saving the president. Other employees whispered. Sheng Yan's face is so fake. I saw her talking to the worker last night. Is she a mole? Isn't the tea water slight enough? He stepped back, clenching his fists and suppressing. Understood. The employees started whispering. Brother Yi confessed? That look in his eyes was so affectionate. When the president pushed him, his hands shook. It was so ambiguous. Xiaomei was excited. He risked his life to save others, monster level. Gu Han's conspiracy was reduced to rubbish. Qiao Zhixia's eyes were as sharp as a knife. Shut up. Sheng Yan, go check the surveillance camera. Sheng Yan bit her lip and stepped back, her back twisted, her nails embedded in her palms and bleeding. Ye Chen stood silently outside the door, and while changing the dressing, he hit the wall with his fist. The muffled sound echoed, and his suppressed emotions were like a violent wave. Late at night, Qiao Zhixia was alone in the sea view suite. The waves roared on the shore outside the floor-to-ceiling window, and the moonlight shone on the silk nightgown. She leaned against the head of the bed, reminiscing about the embrace on the grassy slope. His chest was as hard as an iron wall, but wrapped in warmth, the smell of blood mixed with blood, his pulse twitching and his heartbeats synchronized like lovers. Touching his lips with his fingers, his face was as hot as fire. Ye Chen contract? Questioning the emotional isolation for the first time, the cracks in the frozen heart widened, and he tossed and turned, muttering. Why is he so stupid? On the balcony next door, Ye Chen was keeping vigil, his short hair ruffled by the sea breeze, and the red light from his cigarette but illuminated his smile. Her smile is worth it. But the veins on his fists bulged, and the fire of taboo was raging. Early the next morning, the hotel fitting room was brightly lit, and the air was filled with fresh fabrics and salty sea breeze. Qiao Zhixia put on a new cheongsam for autumn and winter. The satin silk fit her exquisite curves, and she showed off her cool queen style in the mirror. She turned around and looked at Ye Chen. A layman's evaluation. All the designers held their breath and Xiaomei's eyes widened. The president asked the bodyguard to evaluate the new clothes. Intimate upgrade. Sheng Yan smiled sinisterly in the corner. This time let's see how he flirts. In the fitting room, the light shines brightly like a spotlight, reflecting the metallic luster of the silk fabric. The sea breeze seeps in through the half-open window, mixing with the pungent smell of salty and fresh dye. When Qiao Zhixia turned around, the satin of her cheongsam lightly rubbed against the mirror, making a rustling sound. She locked eyes with Ye Chen and her voice was provocative. That's not enough. Come in, the next one. All the designers gasped. Xiaomei's eyes widened, and her phone nearly dropped. The president asked the bodyguard to enter the fitting room. The scale is full. Sheng Yan twisted her sinister smile in the corner, pretending to lower her head to straighten the fabric, and her nails dug into the palms of her hands. Wild man, how dare you touch the president? Wait for it. Ye Chen's eyebrows moved slightly, and he pushed the door open. The iron tower body blocked the crack of the door, and the air instantly compressed like the eve of a storm. He stood 3 steps away, arms folded across his chest, breathing steadily but looking like a hunting wolf. New season dress? Qiao Zhixia nodded, and the assistant handed over a sexy black velvet evening dress. The low-cut V-neck reached to the waist, and the skirt was layered like waves in the dark night. She turned behind the curtain, and there was a faint sound of fabric friction, accompanied by the crisp sound of zipper gears biting. After a moment she stepped out. Her dress hugged her exquisite curves tightly, her chest muscles were looming, her waist was full, and her skirt trembled as she walked like a living thing. The sea breeze blew by, the velvet hummed against the skin, and the scent of perfume mixed with body temperature filled the air. The designer's Adam's apples rolled and they whispered, "Oh my God! The president's outfit is fatal. Even the models are inferior. Brother Ye's eyes are on fire." Xiao Mei covered her mouth and screamed, "The curves are perfect, the press conference is going to explode." Qiao Zhixia ignored it and walked in circles in front of the mirror, her skirt flying and drawing an arc. Direct review. No shortcomings left. Ye Chen took half a step forward, his gaze swept across like a laser, sliding from the collarbone to the waist, and then down to the skirt. His voice was as low as sandpaper grinding iron. "The curve is deadly, the V-neck highlights the arc of the collarbone, a deadly bait. But the shoulder straps are too loose, and it is easy to slip when turning, and it is defective. It is like inviting an accident." His eyes were burning, looking directly into her eyes. Electricity was flowing in the air, and heat was rising. Her heartbeat was beating like a drum. Her cheeks were as red as fire, and she pretended to be calm and turned around to demonstrate. Suddenly, the hem of her skirt hooked on the heel of her high-heeled shoes, and there was a click, and the fabric was so tight that it was tearing. She staggered, leaned forward and screamed, "Damn it!" Ye Chen made a lightning move, lightly touching the inside of her skirt with his fingertips, and the rough palm of his hand grazed the skin of her calf, sending numbness up her spine like an electric shock. He pulled gently to dissolve it, and reset the fabric. His movements were as quick as defusing a bomb. His breath sprayed on the tips of her hair, and the manly scent of tobacco and sea salt hit her nostrils. "Steady," he murmured, taking a step back, clenching his fists slightly to suppress his desire. Qiao Zhixia gasped and pushed him away. The skin under the velvet was hot, her legs were as soft as cotton, and her heart was filled with tears. The touch was as rough and warm as a soldering iron, and the forbidden flames burned her 5 internal organs. She bit her lip and fled behind the curtain, the zipper trembling. "That's enough. Get out." But behind the curtain, she touched her calf with her fingers. The residual warmth was still there, and she had endless aftertaste. Her face was red and bleeding. "Ye Chen, this tool of yours is too dangerous." The employees outside glared like bells, and her beautiful legs were weak against the wall. Brother Yi touched his finger, and the skirt came to life. That look filled the room with lust. When the CEO ran away, his face turned red. "So sweet." The press conference is in full swing. The ballroom of the seaside hotel is brightly lit. The crystal chandelier reflects the bright light rain. The waves crash on the shore to the accompaniment of the roar. The sound of champagne bubbles popping in the air is intertwined with the aroma of grilled seafood. Industry leaders gathered. Flashlights flashed like a rainstorm. Models filed on stage, and new autumn and winter cheongsams and dresses appeared one after another. The audience whispered, "Stars are queens this season. President Qiao designed it himself, so why does Gu plagiarism count?" In the center of the platform, Qiao Zhixia looked cool and queenly, holding the microphone tightly. "Thank you, team." Her eyes glanced at Ye Chen, who was hidden in the side curtains, scanning the entire audience like a hawk. Suddenly, the lights in the third row under the stage flashed, and the red light of the hidden camera lit up. Ye Chen's eyes flashed, and his figure jumped out like a ghost, past the waiter's tray, and the wine glass shattered. He knelt down on one knee to dismantle the device, and crushed the chip with a click. The paparazzi screamed, "Who? My secret camera!" The security guard pounced on him. Ye Chen stood up and pushed. The man flew 3 meters and smashed the table. The wine spilled onto the wet ground, filling the air with a fishy sweet taste. The big bosses stared at each other and yelled, "The bodyguards are amazing. The hidden camera will be removed as soon as you ask." Guhan paparazzi, it's a disaster, the stars are safe. The model's legs were weak on the stage. Mr. Yi monster. The conference is as stable as a mountain. Ye Chen stepped forward and touched the hem of her skirt lightly with his fingertips. Electric current flowed through the air. Perfect. But if the waistline is further tightened, it will highlight your curvature, which is as deadly as the ocean waves. His voice was low, his eyes were hot, and he directly teased the heartstrings. Qiao Zhixia's cheeks were slightly red. Her heartbeat was skipping a beat. Bold. But the corners of her lips were raised, and the air was as ambiguous as honey. The employees gasped. Brother Yi has a poisonous eye. This comment is on fire. Fitting show, sparks are flying, Guhan is coming. Crisis is surging, romantic flames are quietly igniting. The dinner party reached its climax with people drinking wine and laughing. Guhan suddenly appeared, wearing a neat tuxedo suit and a smile like a poisonous snake spitting messages. He pushed through the crowd and went straight to Qiao Zhixia. Mr. Qiao, let's talk about cooperation? His voice was smooth, his eyes glanced at Ye Chen like a dead thing. The aura of the bodyguards around him was oppressive, and the air in the hall was stagnant. Whispers broke out among the bosses. Guhan comes in person. Star territory, he dares. Conflict breaks out. The stock market is about to shake. Qiao Zhixia sneered. Private talks? Outside the door. But Guhan came closer and whispered, I have all the design drafts. The stock market crashes, so sign the contract. The threat was like a knife, and the smell of alcohol was in his nose. Ye Chen stepped forward to block, his iron arm stretched across his body, and his voice was like thunder. Back off. Guhan's men pounced on him, the wind of his fist roared, and Ye Chen broke the bridge of his nose with an elbow. Blood spurted out like mist, and he screamed loudly in the hall. A monster! Another man drew his sword and stabbed him. Cold light flashed. Ye Chen dodged and buckled back. There was a crisp sound of cracking bones, and the sound of the knife falling to the ground. Guhan's face turned pale and he took 3 steps back. You? Former special forces? The big guys stood up and applauded. Ye Chen tortured Gu's bodyguard like a dog. In one move. President Qiao, this bodyguard is a national treasure. Xiaomei screamed. Guhan is scared, inviting cooperation is a trap. At the end of the banquet on the way back to the suite, Qiao Zhixia's phone vibrated with an anonymous text message. The design draft was stolen, and the stock market was counting down to the crash. With a sinking heart, she pushed open the door of the fitting hall and handed over the revised draft. President, we just adjusted the details. The Cheongsam shoulder straps came loose during the demonstration, and the model slipped on the stage. The audience snickered. Xingqian made a mistake? The queen overturned. Qiao Zhixia was furious, grabbed the draft paper and threw it at Sheng Yan's face. Who changed it? Ye Chen, you were negligent in guarding the door. The cold words were like ice knives, and his eyes were filled with doubts, and he distanced himself. Ye Chen clenched his fists and said without any explanation, my fault. But his eyes were locked on Sheng Yan. She lowered her head and pretended to cry, her eyes flashing with resentment. President, I'm wronged. The press conference was a success with thunderous applause. Qiao Zhixia publicly praised on the stage. Ye Chen, you have contributed a lot. Her voice was clear, her eyes sparkled with love, and her sweetness was like honey. He nodded slightly, ignoring the pain in the wound on his back. Xiaomei, an employee, jumped excitedly. President's sweetheart. Publicly praised the bodyguard. Headlines in the circle. Brother Yi escort impeccable. Guhan get out. Sheng Yan stepped forward with the tray and smirked. President celebratory wine. There was a faint glint of glass shards in the wine glass, and her eyes flashed sinisterly. Late at night, with the waves roaring endlessly, Qiao Zhixia sat alone on the balcony, wrapped in a silk robe. Recalling the touch of trying on clothes, her fingers were rough, and the embers of desire burned her heart. But doubts were pricking. Negligence? Or? Ye Chen stayed vigil outside the door. The red light of his cigarette but reflected on his face, and he noticed something strange about Guhan. There was a bigger conspiracy behind the invitation. The fist hit the railing and the muffled sound echoed. Protect. More than just the body. The crisis is surging, and the flames of forbidden love are getting stronger. Following the press conference the next day, industry forums exploded with reports. The video of star bodyguard Ye Chen torturing Gu Han's men has been retweeted 100,000 times. President Qiao's sweet pet has been revealed, and rumors of forbidden love are flying everywhere. However, there is a slight movement in the stock market, and Gu Han calls Qiao Zhixia directly. Don't refuse to have a private talk at the dinner. Otherwise, Xiao Li's car accident will happen again. Her knuckles turned white while holding the phone, and she felt despair in her heart. In a larger circle, the secret war between wealthy families was unfolding, and Ye Chen's figure followed him closely, but at a distance. Sheng Yan was secretly happy, but her plan was hidden. In the aftermath of the dinner, the big bosses in the hotel lobby gathered around Qiao Zhixia. Let's cooperate. Let the Star Alliance fight against the Gu family. The world expanded and the vortex of power was involved. She sneered. Whoever dares to betray will end up like Gu's men. Ye Chen scanned the crowd and smelled a strange smell in the air. Poison? The crisis escalated and a new mystery emerged. Gu Han not only assassinated, but also had internal infiltration. Qiao Zhixia glanced at him with complicated eyes. Follow closely. Sparks ignited in the cracks of Tianchong. The sea breeze howled like the roar of wild beasts, and the crystal lights in the hotel lobby shone dazzlingly, reflecting the wet reflection of the marble floor, mixing the sweet smell of alcohol and rotten seafood. The big guys gathered around Qiao Zhixia. The tuxedos around her body rustled, and the soft sound of champagne bubbles popping could be heard all the time. Mr. Qiao, please sign the alliance to fight against the Gu family. A fat, bald boss came closer, hot breath hitting his face, and his eyes greedily glanced at the diamond pendant around her neck. Xiaomei squeezed on the edge, her eyes shining with admiration. The CEO's aura overwhelmed the entire audience. Gu Han's venomous snake face is so cowardly as to be a dog. Sheng Yan walked away holding the tray with a fake smile, her fingertips trembling slightly to hide the lingering hatred of the glass shards, and the resentment in her eyes seeped out like ink. Gu Han suddenly burst out from the crowd. His tuxedo was wrinkled and stained with blood, and the bodyguards around him followed him with bruises and swollen faces. The air instantly solidified like an ice cave. He pulled the corner of his mouth with a sinister smile, revealing shark-like teeth, and whispered in Qiao Zhixia's ear. The smell of alcohol and cigarette smoke penetrated his nose. Miss Qiao, the design draft has been received, and the stock market will crash tomorrow morning. Sign the acquisition agreement, right? Xiao Li's car accident. It would not be fun to reenact. As soon as he finished speaking, whispers broke out in the hall. The big guys gasped, and the fat bald man backed away with weak legs. Gu Han is crazy. Threatened in person, recorded evidence. Xiaomei covered her mouth and screamed. Xiao Li? He admitted to the explosion last week? CEO, call the police. Qiao Zhixia's face was livid. She pinched the white champagne glass between her knuckles. The glass shattered with a crisp sound, and the wine dripped and splashed on the ground. She sneered like a knife. Gu Han, get out of the Star territory. Acquisition? Dreaming. Your men are useless. Looking at Ye Chen, he was hidden in the shadows. His iron arm moved slightly, his eyes locked on Gu Han's waist pocket like a wolf. The phone was flashing red. Live broadcast? Gu Han's face twitched, and he pushed away the crowd with a forced smile. Happy cooperation, Mr. Qiao. When he turned around, his men followed him furtively, their footsteps as light as a cat's claws scratching the carpet. Outside the lobby door, the roar of the waves covered up the low roar of the engine. Ye Chen's figure flashed out like a ghost, and his iron fist smashed the taillight of a black car. Glass shards flew like rain, and the pungent smell of gasoline exploded. His men screamed and braked, and the tires scraped against the ground and screamed, Monster! Ye Chen is coming! Ye Chen opened the car door with one hand, twisting the steel and wailing. He pulled the man out and pushed him to the ground, pressing his knee to his throat. Following? Tell me, who ordered it? The man's face turned purple and he vomited blood. Gu, Mr. The big guys peering through the glass in the lobby glared like bells. Brother Yi attacked the abandoned car at night. Followed in seconds with one punch, the god of bodyguards. Inside information? Sheng Yan? The inner ghost in the stars has been exposed. Qiao Zhixia's eyes flashed, and the doubts in her heart became more serious, and she lowered her voice. Ye Chen, come back. On the way back to the suite, the Mercedes-Benz engine hummed, and the salty sea breeze penetrated through the cracks in the car window. Qiao Zhixia leaned back on the seat and closed her eyes. Her skin under her silk robe still had the heat of a fitting room, and her heartbeat was beating like a drum. Ye Chen was driving, her iron arm on the steering wheel, her tired brows reflected in the rearview mirror. "Thank you tonight," she suddenly spoke, her voice softened by 3 points, and her eyes glanced at the profile of his face, which was as hard as a knife. Ye Chen's Adam's apple rolled. Responsibility. The silence in the car was oppressive, and suddenly he heard a faint hum. The confessions of Gu Han's men echoed in his earphones. She opened her eyes suddenly and said coldly, "You eavesdropped on my conversation with Gu Han? You have exceeded the limit, Ye Chen." The air current surged, emotions were twisting like knives, his fists on the steering wheel turned white. Protective range all directions. She laughed angrily, the smell of perfume mixed with anger. "Tools don't cross the line." The car lights cut through the night, she turned to look at the sea, her heart was churning. Those hands, rough and warm when she touched the clothes. How could she be suspicious? In the suite, the soft yellow light fell on the carpet. Qiao Zhixia opened the door and walked in. Her high heels clicked on the floor, and her exhaustion was like a tide. She slumped on the sofa, her silk robe slipped off her shoulders, revealing the curve of her collarbone. Flashbacks to the fitting room flashed back. Ye Chen rubbed his calf with his fingertips, and numbness ran down his spine like electricity. Ye Chen was watching outside the door and noticed a strange noise in the kitchen. The supper box left by Sheng Yan had a strong smell. He frowned and threw it away, and started to do it himself. The sound of the pot and spatula was heard. The smoke rose with the aroma of minced garlic and seafood, and the sea breeze blew away the smoke. Half an hour later, the steaming bowl of porridge was served. The shrimps were wrapped in crystal grains of rice, and the hot steam hit the face and warmed the heart and soul. "Eat," he said in a low voice, blocking the door with his iron tower body. His eyes softened, and he ignored the dull pain of the old injury on his back. Qiao Zhixia was stunned. The aroma of the porridge aroused hunger in her nose. She took a mouthful of it with a spoon, and the sweetness slid into her throat, and the warmth flowed into her stomach like a spring breeze. Her eyes softened and she put down the spoon. You know how to cook?" Ye Chen leaned against the wall and crossed his arms across his chest. "Special forces, survival in the wild." Her heart was as soft as cotton, and memories of her childhood came back to her. A dilapidated house in an alley, her mother sewing under a sewing lamp, and her dream of stealing fabrics and painting. "When I was a child, my parents divorced, and I hid in the attic to paint skirts. Son, a dream empire. No one believes it." His voice was trembling, his eyes were filled with tears. He stepped forward and gently wiped her cheek with his thick fingers. "Now I believe it." The pads of his fingers were as warm as a brand, and the air was ambiguously warming. She blushed and murmured, "Ye Chen." The porridge bowl was empty, and the walls of her heart were cracked, and the sweet sugar melted like honey. But outside the door, Xiaomei passed by and took a peek, screaming at the top of her throat, "Brother Yi cooks porridge to heal." The CEO shares his dream with tears in his eyes. His sweet pet is so sweet, and his forbidden love is real. Early the next morning, the sun was shining brightly on the balcony, and the waves were roaring on the shore. When Qiao Zhixia was in a meeting, her phone vibrated. Yan handed over the tablet, and the screen froze. Ye Chen's mobile phone call records. Gu Han's number flashed at high frequency with a fake voice. "Cooperation, the insider is in place." Sheng Yan pretended to cry, tears dripping down the floor. "President, I accidentally discovered."
Ye Chen betrayet.
Qiao Zhixia was furious, and the tablet smashed to the ground with an ear-splitting sound and shards of glass. The splash was pungent, and she stood up and walked around, her silk robe flying like a roaring wave. "Ye Chen!"
Kumein.
The employees whispered. Xiaomei's eyes widened and her legs felt weak. "Is it fake? Brother Yi is so gentle when cooking porridge. How can he be a traitor?" Sheng Yan. "Green tea, the evidence is too clever. The mole is the one who let it." Ye Chen pushed open the door with a stoic face. "Say." She threw out the fragments and said in a cold voice, "Call record fired. Get out." She smashed the table with her fist and the wood chips flew away, and the oppression of power was like a mountain. Ye Chen's eyebrows did not move, his voice was as low as thunder. Contract, annual salary of 50 million, never leave. No evidence, refuse. She laughed angrily and pointed at his chest. I believe you, a tool that exceeds the rules? Eavesdropped on the fitting. Negligent at the dinner, sell me now. Shang Yan twisted her sinister smile in the corner and dug her nails into the palm of her hand. The president is wise. The bodyguard is a careerist, Gu Han's chess piece. The employees gasped. The president angrily demolished CP? Brother Yi refused to leave, the tough guy is loyal. Ye Chen locked eyes with Shang Yan and noticed the smell on her sleeves. The same poison in the lobby. He turned around with fists clenched. Evidence fake. But Qiao Zhixia waved her hand. Security, drag away. During the tug, his figure remained motionless as a mountain, and the desire in his heart was suppressed to ashes. Protection. Can't even keep his heart? Late at night, the seaside hotel suite is as dark as ink. The moonlight shines through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the roar of the waves accompanies the heartbeat. Qiao Zhixia couldn't sleep, her silk was tangled in sweat. The touch of fitting clothes was intertwined with the smell of porridge, and suspicion pierced her heart like a thorn. Ye Chen, a traitor? Suddenly he heard a soft sound on the balcony. The iron door opened and Ye Chen broke in. The tall figure was backlit like a ghost, and he crushed the mobile phone card in his hand. Evidence, this. He stepped forward, the tablet light shone on his face. The forged software code flashed. Shang Yan IP was directly connected to Gu Han. She sat up suddenly, grabbed the lampstand beside her pillow and threw it. Get out! Traitor! The metal lamp body arced and hit his shoulder. Blood seeping out of his shirt and dripping onto the carpet, filling the air with a fishy sweet smell. Ye Chen groaned, his iron arm blocking her trembling wrist. See clearly, the inner ghost is Shang Yan. Gu Han has not only purchased, the poison has seeped out, and the air in the lobby will smell bad tomorrow. A stock market bomb, and the entire design library has been stolen. Her eyes trembled, the blood on his shoulder spread under the light, and his rough palm covered hers. Her back was as warm as fire. Trust me. The air was electrified, and the taboo flames rekindled, but she pushed away and gasped. I'm hurt. Get out. The wall of her heart was on the verge of breaking, and in the sweet tug a new crisis hook was buried deep. Shang Yan's mobile phone flashed an anonymous message. Tomorrow morning, I'll see you at the president's tea. There were whispers in the employee corridor. Brother Yi broke into the house late at night to expose the insider. The president injured him. Blood stained the carpet, and the sadomasochism escalated. The evidence was reversed. Shang Yan was dead, and Gu Han's conspiracy exploded. The sea wind roared, the night swallowed everything, and the romantic flames were raging amid the suspicion of betrayal. The vortex of power was drawn deeper. Ye Chen stayed at the door, punching the wall with a dull sound echoing. Protect? Never. Qiao Zhixia sat alone on the edge of the bed, fingering the bloodstains on the lampstand, with residual warmth and heartburn, murmuring, Ye Chen, if it is true, how can I let him go? The foreshadowing is hidden, and the secret war between the rich and powerful will explode tomorrow. The fitting room flashed back, and the touch of desire was still there. She whispered, Ye Chen, believe you? But the aftermath of the cold accusation made her heart wall rebuild. The employees whispered, the president is suspicious of Brother Yi? Shang Yan's manuscript was clearly handed in by her. Improved evidence of the inner ghost. Gu Han is here in person, the storm is coming. The sea breeze is howling, the night is like ink, and the romantic flames are raging in the crisis, waiting to explode. In the suite, the smell of blood and the salty sea breeze intertwined into a web. Qiao Zhixia's fingertips touched the sticky blood on the lampstand, and her fingertips were still as warm as a soldering iron. She was panting rapidly, her silk fabric was tangled in sweat-soaked thighs. Her eyes locked on the figure of the iron tower outside the door. The muffled sound of Ye Chen's fist hitting the wall echoed like a hammer being hammered on her heart. Protect? Never. The murmur penetrated into her eardrums like an oath, and her heart was churning. The forged IP evidence flashed in her mind. The odor on Shang Yan's sleeves overlapped with the confession. The clouds of suspicion receded like the tide, and the guilt surged up like a needle. She knelt down and unbuttoned his shirt, and her fingertips trembled as she touched the texture of his chest. The rough heat was like coals and lightning, and her cheeks burned red, avoiding her eyes. Alcohol poured into the wound, hissing bubbles arose and pungent. He groaned without moving, and the leather on the armrest of the white sofa was squeezed with an iron fist, making a soft tearing sound. Whispers in the employee corridor seeped through the cracks in the door. The CEO bandaged it with his own hands. Brother Ye's bloodstained shoulder. Sadomasochistic healing so sweet. The inner ghost Shang Yan is irrefutable. The CEO has gone soft. The taboo is hot. The roots of her ears were hot. The gauze was wrapped around his shoulders. Bloodshot threads seeped out and stained the seams between her fingers, and her breathing at close range made his Adam's apple roll, and lust surged in his eyes like a tsunami. At the moment of gazing, the air solidified like honey. Her heartbeat roared louder than the waves. The numbness in her legs rekindled when she rubbed her fingertips in the dressing room. The fragrance of porridge and the gentle wiping of tears overlapped. The taboo flames erupted. She leaned forward suddenly, and took the initiative to cover his thin lips with her rough beard, which stung but was as sweet as honey. The tip of her tongue was tentatively entangled, and the perfume mixed with alcohol and blood hit her nostrils. His iron arm stiffened for a moment, and then he tightened his grip on her waist like an iron hoop, growling as suppressed as an animal. Zhixia! The murmur was heartbreaking, and her mind exploded. She pushed away and gasped for breath and backed away. The silk robe fell off her shoulders and exposed the arc of her collarbone. Her face turned pale. No! Identity, employer and tool. Overstepping the bounds. The voice was as sharp as a knife, and the walls of her heart were rebuilt but the cracks were bloody.
Come in.
Her voice was trembling, her authority was on the verge of collapse, and her high heels clicked on the floor as she pushed the door open. Ye Chen turned around, the blood on his shoulder shirt spread out like ink, his iron arms slightly drooped to bear the pain. His silhouette against the light was like a god of war descending, his eyes locked on her like a wolf stalking her. President! A deep voice hit his face, carrying the smell of rust. She bit her lip and stepped forward. The zipper of the medicine box opened harshly, and the white gauze and the alcohol bottle rolled down the carpet with a muffled sound. Seat. The order was mixed with sobs. He sat down obediently with his eyebrows raised slightly, and the sofa springs hummed to bear the weight of his iron body. The next morning, the sun shone dazzlingly into the conference room. The waves roared against the shore outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the screams of seagulls broke the tranquility. Qiao Zhixia sat at the head of the table, her silk robe replaced by a neatly tailored black suit, her aura of power pressing down on the table like a blade. The signatures of the alliance bosses were scanned on the tablet and the dings rang loudly. Star Alliance fights against the Gu family, with a capital injection of 500 million, and the design library is encrypted and upgraded. The video screen of the fat bald boss trembled with tears. Mr. Qiao angrily scolded Gu Han last night, with the aura of a queen. Bodyguard, you used the car to expose the culprit. We will follow closely. Xiao Mei handing the coffee, her eyes shone with admiration. The president has been resting for half a day. The stock market is stable. Shang Yan is under investigation for suspension. It's so exciting. The air was filled with the bitter aroma of coffee and the salty sweetness of victory. She took stock of the harvest, the dinner alliance was formed, the forged evidence was shattered. Ye Chen's shoulder injury was exchanged for Shang Yan's ironclad certificate, and the strength in her heart skyrocketed. The defense network was encrypted, monitoring was fully covered, the odor of Gu Han's poison had been sent for inspection, and the design database backup was locked in the cloud. Ye Chen's eyes were as dim as death, and the sound of the fist hitting his kneecap was muffled. He stood up and pressed the air with his iron tower figure. Contract, never leave. Turning to leave, the door banged loudly and shook the dust. She burst into tears, fingering her lips with warmth. Ye Chen, why does it always mess up my heart? The sea wind roared around the curtains, the night swallowed up the sweet ashes, and guilt flooded the shell of authority like a tide. Suddenly, the mobile phone buzzed and shook the table, and an anonymous message flashed. Sheng Yan is in my hand, the core autumn and winter Cheongsam design drawings, due before midnight. Otherwise, her body would be floating in the sea.
Gu Han.
Attached picture. Sheng Yan is tied to a warehouse chair, her mouth is taped, her face is covered with tears and snot, against the background of rusty iron and fishy and rotten sea. The air in the conference room froze and Xiaomei screamed and covered her mouth. Sheng Yin kidnapped. Gu Han is a mad dog, and the mole got bitten instead. The fat bald man stared at the video and his legs weakened. Mr. Qiao, abandoned the car to save the handsome man? Lost the design, the stars will die. Qiao Zhixia's face turned livid, her knuckles pinching the cracked cobwebs in the ceramic of the white coffee cup. She stood up with a sneer. Gu Han, you are playing with fire. Ye Chen, go and save him. The authority was overwhelming and the employees gasped. The president is ruthless. If you don't hand over the plan, brother, you will save green tea alone? Monster mode on. The employees were whispering. The CEO is taking stock very quickly. Alliance funds are pouring in. Gu's collapse is a sign. Brother Yi is stronger after healing. She glanced at Ye Chen, who was leaning against the wall and hugging his chest, the gauze on his shoulders concealing bloodstains, his eyes caressing her waist, and the embers of last night's kiss were suppressed into ashes. While trimming, she whispered, Ye Chen, the contract is renewed, and the annual salary will be increased by 100 million. Stay tuned. His Adam's apple rolled. I obey. The iron arm moved slightly, and the warm hand covering last night reappeared in her mind. Her face turned red and her desire to control power expanded. The tools were upgraded, but her heart was tugging. In the warehouse area, the sea breeze was howling and the smell of rotting diesel oil was mixed. The rusty iron door creaked and was ajar. Gu Han's more than 10 strong men surrounded Sheng Yin with sticks. She whimpered and twisted the tape to strangle her red neck. The smell of sweat, fear and urine filled the air. Gu Han leaned against the wall with a dark smile. The cigar smoke filled the air and the ashes fell. Qiao Zhixia, are you planning to exchange for the traitor? His subordinates laughed ferociously. Boss, chop off her fingers to send a video. Suddenly, the iron door exploded in the darkness, steel sheets flying like rain and piercing the ear. Ye Chen's figure hit like thunder, and the iron fist pierced the strong man for the first time. The sternum, bones and flesh exploded. Blood mist hit his nose. The man fell to the ground spurting blood and his eyes bulged. Monster! One punch to blow out the heart. The men screamed and scattered, the sticks whizzed at him, he dodged sideways, kneed the second man's hip bone and howled miserably. The third man was thrown away with an iron arm and choked by a cobweb of cement cracks, and his brain oozed sweet taste. Gu Han's face twitched, he pulled out his gun and banged, and the bloodline stretched when the bullet rubbed his shoulder. He roared and rushed forward, grabbed the gun with his backhand, broke the steel pipe, twisted and whined, put his knee on Gu Han's lower abdomen, vomited blood and bent over. You are a traitor, throw it away after you use it? Sheng Yin opened her eyes and burst into tears. Yi, save me. He tore off the tape with one hand, lifted her up with his iron arm and threw her back. With the stick blowing, he spun around and kicked the 4 people off, breaking their legs and rolling to the ground screaming. Brother Yi, god of war. 10 people surrounded and slaughtered them like dogs, staining the warehouse with blood. The remaining men wet their pants and fled, and the tires screeched away. Gu Han got up and vomited blood, then pressed the remote control with a sinister smile. Toxic gas. The design library was completely destroyed. Ye Chen's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and he knocked him unconscious with an iron fist. He rushed out with Sheng Yin on his back. The old wound on his shoulder was lacerated with blood, and the new gun penetrated his shirt. His bloody figure looked like a demon in the backlight, and the sea breeze blew away the bloody mist. In the hotel lobby, Qiao Zhixia was pacing anxiously, her high heels tapping the floor like war drums. The employees were watching and whispering. Brother Yi rescued the mole and returned with blood? The CEO was so excited that his sweetheart relied on real strength. The door opened with a bang, and Ye Chen broke in with Sheng Yin on his back. The blood stains on the carpet were long and pungent. She fell to the ground with weak legs and cried, President! Gu Han tied me up and forced me to press the design drawing. Ye Chen. Chen saved me. But his eyes were wrong when he touched my waist. Sheng Yin bit back, her tears bursting, and the smell on her cuffs reappeared, pointing to Ye Chen. The motives are not pure. The bodyguard pretends to be loyal, but in fact he covets the president. I have evidence of breaking into the house late at night. Qiao Zhixia's eyes trembled, and there was another storm in her heart. Last night's kiss was frozen, relying on the hug to stop? Ye Chen stood still with blood dripping from his face, holding bones in his fists. The evidence is false. But she took half a step back and said coldly, "Speak clearly." The hook of crisis was buried deep. The air in the lobby was electrified. The waves roared foretelling the storm again. Gu Han's poisonous energy was foreshadowing. Misunderstandings were hanging like knives, and the romantic flames were on the verge of flying away. The crystal chandelier in the hotel lobby sheds an icy cold light. The low roar of the waves crashing on the shore seeped into the glass wall like the panting of a beast. The smell of blood and rust mixed with Shang Yan's sweaty urine to form a poisonous mist, and the whispers outside the employee circle exploded like poisonous snakes spitting messages. Assistant Shang cried. She complained that Brother Ye's hand slipped around her waist when he was carrying her. "I've seen the video of him breaking into a house late at night." The bodyguard was so ambitious and the CEO was deceived miserably. Xiaomei's eyes widened and she covered her mouth, leaning against the pillar. Brother Yi is a bloody hero. How can he become a pervert? Is the smell on Sister Shang's sleeves blood? The insider turned around, and the CEO was heartbroken. The fat and bald man's video screen shook like chaff, and beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. "Mr. Qiao, Ye Chen is suspended for investigation. Don't ruin the alliance's 500 million yuan in the dog's hands." The air was like a lead weight pressing against her chest. Qiao Zhixia's fingertips under her black suit. Bing Liang crushed the coffee cup, and the ceramic slag pierced the palm of her hand and blood oozed out. She glanced at Shang Yan's paralyzed cry group like a knife. "Evidence." Her voice was as low as the door of hell opening, and her authoritative aura overwhelmed the entire audience. The employees gasped and took half a step back. Shang Yan climbed up on her knees and stretched out the rug, her eyes filled with tears. The screen of her mobile phone lit up. She clicked on the photo album and pushed it in front of her eyes. "President, look. Your smile was secretly photographed at the scenic spot." I took a look at his mobile phone. The intimate close-up was uploaded to the cloud. There is also a fitting room. His eyes are as hungry as a wolf's. I secretly recorded the waist-touching video. The picture flashed. Qiao Zhixia's smiling face on the beach, the gentle art captured by Ye Chen's camera, followed by the moment when the skirt in the fitting room was in danger, and he wrapped his arms around his waist. The ambiguous editing was accompanied by a murmur. "Zhixia." The synthesized voice was harsh. The employees screamed, secretly filming the CEO. Brother Yi is a hypocrite, turning taboos into prostitutes, and star scandals are broadcast live. Xiaomei pointed at Ye Chen tremblingly. "Hero mask, blood-stained shoulders, is it an act?" Ye Chen's iron face was dripping with blood on his forehead, and his fist bones were white and cracked. "Fake. Delete all." But Shang Yan smiled sinisterly and added, "Cloud backup, the paparazzi has bought it. Mr. Gu's investment talks collapsed. Are you protecting the wolf and killing the family?" Qiao Zhixia's heart was turned upside down, and the burning lips from last night's kiss rekindled, but were secretly photographed and doused with ice water. The iron tower that relied on life turned into a tool to overstep the rules of the wolf? She took a step back, and the sound of her heels echoed in the lobby. Her voice was as cold as 10,000 years of ice. "Ye Chen, suspend your duties. Self-certify in the control room, and you are not allowed to come near 24 hours a day." The iron law of power fell down, and the employees gasped and worshipped. "President Thunder. The Queen is decisive, the bodyguards are offline, the stars will not fall." Ye Chen's eyes were as dark as death. Gray, the blood on her shoulder seeped into the gauze and spread into a red blush. She turned away with her iron arms hanging slightly. The backlight lengthened the loneliness. The sea breeze swept the door and rolled up the blood-stained paper towels flying. Her heart ached like a knife, and her authority was crushed. Shang Yan Infirmary. Investigation continued. Shang Yan lowered her head in a false manner. Her eyes flashed with resentment like poisonous scorpions, and the odor on her cuffs was covered up by alcohol. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the design department of Star headquarters was brightly lit. The blue light of the computer screen was as dazzling as needles. The coffee machine was ticking bitterly, and employees were whispering through the wall to Qiao Zhixia's office. Brother Yi secretly filmed the president laughing, and the video of him lifting his buttocks while trying on clothes was leaked. The inner ghost Sister Shang exposed. The president is extremely handsome, and his forbidden love has turned into a palace fight. Xiao Mei came in with documents. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she trembled. President, the stock market is down slightly. Paparazzi hot search #bodyguard candid photography queen #exploded. Gu stocks hit the limit to attract investment. Qiao Zhixia sat behind the table. Her black stockings legs overlapped like a mountain, and the hot search picture pop-up window on the tablet was dazzling. She rubbed her fingertips against the rough touch of her lips last night, and the cracks in her heart were bloody. Put it down. Public relations are in full swing. The surface is as calm as an iceberg, but the inner dispute is like a turbulent wave. Ye Chen's bloody warehouse figures overlap and are secretly photographed. Why does he always mess with authority? The salty sea breeze blew in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and she took a deep breath to suppress her guilt. The pressure of power was like an iron crown on her head. Shang Yan returned to work. The design department will keep an eye on her. At the end of the corridor, Shang Yan leaned against the wall and answered the phone with a dark smile. Her voice was as sweet as honey. Mr. Gu, Ye Chen is offline. I took the secret photo evidence and you can use the fake files in the cloud. Invest 100 million. Drag my inner ghost into the design department and steal all the autumn and winter Cheongsam pictures. Gu Han smiled in a low voice like a ghost crying. What a bitch. Treat Qiao Zhixia to a banquet at 8 o'clock tonight, the seaside manor. The potion is ready, sleep with her. The stars will be with me. The phone was cut off. The roar of the waves warmed up the conspiracy. The smelly poison residue on Shang Yan's sleeves flashed. She slipped into the design library. The USB flash drive was plugged into the host, and the core image of the autumn and winter Cheongsam leaked out of the cloud. The green light of the screen reflected her distorted face. Queen Dai. Ye Chen left the hotel, smashing the handle of the red bicycle with an iron fist and bending it, and the hood was sizzling with blood. He sneaked into the dark alley and the dark network, and his mobile phone located the remains of Gu Han's signal lock warehouse. Toxic gas remote control. Shang Yan's IP continued to look. The shoulder injury was like burning, but his eyes were as sharp as a wolf. The motorcycle engine roared through the night and broke into the back door of the headquarters. The invisible ventilation duct was crawling, and the dust choked his nose and mixed with blood. He eavesdropped on the design department. Sister Shang's hand slipped and tea spilled on the artwork, so it was all destroyed and repainted. Shang Yan pretended to cry. I'm sorry, CEO, the old draft was plagiarized. Can you use it for signing the press conference? Ye Chen punched the wall of the pipe with a muffled sound, secretly checking for traces of the USB flash drive. The mole continues to move. The setting sun was blood-red on the seaside manor. Crystal glasses clinked, and candle flames flickered to reflect Gu Han's gloomy face. He raised a glass in a suit and leather shoes. Mr. Qiao, 500 million in alliance funds? Invest together to fight the market. Do it. The amber liquid rippled, and the medicinal powder was odorless. Shang Yan confirmed in the blink of an eye via remote video. Qiao Zhixia was sitting alone at the banquet table. She was as cool as a queen wrapped in a black dress. She resisted Ye Chen's approach but felt empty. Gu Han, the blueprint is a dream. The stars are not aligned. She sipped wine lightly, her lips flushed, and her eyes swept away the bodyguard position. Last night's kiss burned her heart. Suspending him and fighting alone in the tiger's den? The wine entered her throat and warmed her abdomen. She felt dizzy and filled with mist. Gu Han's eyes were filled with a ferocious smile. President, you are so drunk. Stay overnight. He stood up and approached her, touching the arc of her shoulder with his palms. His breath smelled of wine. She struggled to get up, staggering with her high heels and hitting cracks on the tiles on the floor. Get medicine? Her vision was blurred. Her authority was on the verge of collapse, and she screamed in her heart, Ye Chen, save. Outside the manor, the sea wind howled and rolled up the fallen leaves. The screeching of motorcycle brakes pierced the night. Ye Chen's ghostly figure climbed over the wall. The patrolman was knocked unconscious with an iron fist. His bones cracked and he groaned, and the blood mist hit his nose. He locked the thermal image of the banquet hall and rushed into the crystal door, which was shattered like rain. Gu Han's 5 strong men surrounded him with clubs. He spun around and kneeled the first person in the hip, howling in agony. He locked the second person with his iron arm and threw him away and hit the crystal lamp. The glass shards were filled with pungent smells. He roared at Gu Han. Cure. He grabbed the wine glass and smashed it on the ground. The wine liquid splashed on the carpet. Qiao Zhixia was paralyzed in the chair, her eyes half closed, her cheeks flushing and gasping. Ye Chen. Gu Han drew his gun and banged it to wipe the blood in his ears. He bent his elbow and bent the steel of the gun and wailed. His knees were on his lower abdomen. Gu Han spurted blood and bent over. The inner ghost is Shang Yan. The poisonous gas map is all locked. The remaining man fled in diapers and ran away under the tires. Ye Chen picked her up with iron arms around her waist. The shadow of the devil in the backlight compressed the air, and the sea breeze blew away the sour wine. In a hotel suite, Qiao Zhixia woke up and her silk threads were wet with sweat. She had a headache like a hammer, and the waves roared outside the window like a mockery. She sat up and locked Ye Chen's figure against the wall, hugging her chest, with old and new injuries on her shoulders staining her shirt with blood. Are you following? The voice was as sharp as a knife, and the residual heat of the medicine burned her body. Last night's kiss rekindled but turned into anger. Ignore the suspension order. Hidden video of the wolf. Gu Hanyan broke into a private house. Where is the evidence? Whispers outside the employee door seeped in. Yi Xiong rescued her again. But the CEO misunderstood and pushed him away. Ye Chen's Adam's apple rolled, and the iron fist smashed against the wall, and the dust fell. Help! Shang Yan's photo. I destroyed the USB drive. He stepped forward to touch her forehead, and her palm was rough and hot. She shook it away and his face was red and swollen. Go away! The employer's tool. Overstepping the bounds of surveillance. Tears fell down the collarbone, and the walls of his heart were covered with blood, and the desire for power and control covered up the panic of dependence. His eyes darkened and he retreated. The door banged loudly and the lights fell. She lay on the bed and touched her lips with the lingering taste of the medicinal wine. Ye Chen, why do you always show up? The phone buzzed and Gu Han's anonymous video flashed. The full series of autumn and winter Cheongsam pictures were leaked on hot searches. The red line of the stock market crash was stretched, and the corridors were full of employees screaming. The design drafts are being stolen on a large scale. Plagiarism. Storm, the CEO, signed the old manuscript. After Ye Chen was suspended, the secret agent was him. Xiaomei rushed in and knelt down. President, I suspect Brother Yi backed up the cloud. Sister Shang testified that he stole the USB drive when he was carrying me in the warehouse. Qiao Zhixia's face was as white as paper, and she pinched the white sheets with her knuckles and tore them apart. With a dark cloud of doubt hanging over her blood-soaked loyalty, irrefutable evidence of betrayal? The storm in the Heart Lake rises again. The roaring sea wind swallows up the ashes of romance. The hook of crisis stabs deeply, and the empire of authority is crumbling. Qiao Zhixia's fingertips were dug into the velvet of the sheets, and the tearing sound was like the muffled sound of a broken heart, echoing in the late-night suite. The roar of the waves hitting the rocks penetrated through the floor-to-ceiling windows, mixed with salty moisture, and hit her face like invisible iron hooks tugging at her authority empire. She stared at the trending search screen on her tablet. The entire series of autumn and winter Cheongsam pictures were exposed to the public like bloody wounds. The exquisite embroidery on the fringed skirt and the layered arcs of the moire girdle were all crudely plagiarized by Gu Han's new product preview shots. The comments section was poisonous. The arrows were like rain. Xingchen plagiarism dog. The old manuscript is refired. The queen has fallen. The red line of the stock market curve has been stretched to the extreme. 300 million funds have evaporated like a broken arm. And the pain in her chest is like a lead falling. The figure of Ye Chen carrying Shang Yan from the Iron Tower flashes in her mind. A hero? Or is it a wolf that backs up the cloud and steals pictures on a USB flash drive? President. The little beautiful legs outside the door hit the door softly, and his voice trembled like a candle in the wind. When he pushed the door in, his eyes were as swollen as walnuts, and his face was pale as reflected by the green light of the mobile phone screen. Gu's live broadcast press conference. Gu Han personally unveiled Jinghao Xingchen Tulia leaked hashtag. He said you signed the old plagiarized manuscript, and the industry alliance withdrew 500 million yuan in funds. The employees were all involved, all because of the bankruptcy of Brother Yi after his suspension. Sister Shang's testimony is irrefutable. Whispers in the corridor seeped in like poisonous fog. Ye Chen is so ambitious, secretly filming the CEO and stealing pictures to sell customers. The stars are dead, and the queen is helpless. Qiao Zhixia stood up suddenly, her long black stocking legs tapping the carpet with a muffled sound. Her authoritative aura was like a storm. Xiao Mei's knees weakened and she knelt down. President, Shang Yan has become an assistant. She said that the destruction of the picture was Ye Chen's revenge. Shang Yan's sinister smile magnified in her mind. The hatred in her eyes was like the sting of a scorpion's tail, and her heart was churning. Ye Chen, last night at the medicine and wine banquet, you broke into the manor and killed 5 men in an instant against the order. When the iron arm was wrapped around your waist, your heart beat out of rhythm. Why is there always such a solid evidence as a stab in the back? She took a deep breath of the sea breeze, filling her lungs with cold and salty water to suppress the wave of guilt. Her fingertips danced on the tablet, freezing all of Ye Chen's contacts. Phone blacklist, deprivation of cloud permissions, bodyguard contract with an annual salary of 100 million suspended indefinitely. The psychological game is like cutting each other with blades. On the one hand, the iron law of power cannot be exceeded. On the other hand, dependence and panic are like vines wrapped around the heart. He was suspended from work and saved her. When the blood on his shoulder dyed the gauze red, his eyes dimmed and he retreated, and the red and swollen mark of the slap burned her palm. Get out of the company, she whispered, her voice as cold as ice breaking, and dialed the security hotline. Ye Chen, you are permanently banned from entering the Xingchen building. Violators will call the police. Xiao Mei gasped with wide eyes. President Thunder. Extremely handsome. Blacklisted bodyguards, the queen fights alone. But the employees outside the door whispered. The president is cold-blooded, brother Yi is bloody and pushed away? Forbidden love abuse. Xingchen destroys the Great Wall. The morning light pierced the sea fog and spilled into the headquarters hall. The crystal floor reflected the cold light like a forest of knives. The ticking of the coffee machine filled the air with bitterness. The employees gathered around and whispered. Gu Han plagiarized the live broadcast, and the star Chongsam became a laughingstock. Shang Shang the assistant came to the position last night and destroyed the old manuscript with tea. The president will sign it and use it. The new product is unfinished. Shang Yan clicked her stilettos on the floor with tears still on her face. She pushed the new assistant's ID through the glass of Qiao Zhixia's office. Li Men? Good morning, Su. The picture was leaked and I cried. I witnessed Ye Chen's cloud backup. He stole the USB drive when he was carrying me in the warehouse. A sinister smile flashed in her eyes like a poisonous needle, and the smelly alcohol on her cuffs covered up the poison residue. The staff outside the door burst into admiration. Sister Shang's loyal dog. Expose the spy, the assistant is promoted, and the president is saved. Qiao Zhixia sat behind the table, wrapped in a black suit and weighing heavily, and his eyes scanned the scuff marks on her knees, signs of fake crying. Doubt surged in her heart, but she suppressed her desire for power and control. Go to the top. The design department is watching, and the press conference will be redrawn. The surface is calm, but the inner storm is. Shang Yan retorts too smoothly, and Ye Chen clarifies fake with a straight face, but the irrefutable hot search is like a shackle, and she can no longer rely on that shadow. Her career is in jeopardy. In the afternoon, the Xingchen press conference room was brightly lit, and the projection screen was rolling with huge waves. Gu Han played back the live broadcast. He was in a straight suit and raised his glass with a sinister smile. I have all the pictures of Xingchen autumn and winter, plagiarizing the queen's signature? The industry is laughing at it, and the 500 million alliance will withdraw its investment. The legs of the employees in the audience were as soft as mud. Xiao Mei covered her mouth and trembled. President, the stock price has dropped to the limit, and Gu's investment has increased by 100 million. Shang Yan smiled sinisterly and handed over the new draft paper. President, the old picture has been redrawn, and the shoulder strap is loose. Changed safe. Qiao Zhixia crushed the pen and ink seeped out of her fingers. The psychological game reached its peak. Ye Chen was cold and violent to protect himself, but his heart was empty and there was no iron tower to protect him. The authoritative empire was crumbling. She dismissed Shang Yan and pretended to be pure. Release. The employee gasped. The queen is iron-fisted. Fighting back in adversity, Sister Shang's divine help. But her heart ached. Ye Chen shared the tenderness of his childhood while cooking porridge, and the rough ironing of the fitting room's iron arm to resolve the skirt crisis. Why did it become irrefutable evidence of betrayal? Ye Chen's ghostly figure lurks on the outer wall of the company. The motorcycle engine roars like an animal's breath. The gunshot wound to his shoulder burns like a soldering iron. Blood stains penetrate the gauze and drip with tar. He smashed the barbed wire fence with his iron fist, and the dust choked his nose and mixed with blood. He crawled on the chassis of the invisible truck to monitor the back door, and eavesdropped on Sheng Yan's phone. Mr. Gu, the picture was leaked and it was a hot search. I signed an old press conference. If the shoulder strap is loose, I will do it. I made a mistake and it hurt the president's face. Han Gui cried and laughed. Good luck kidnapping tonight. Xiao Li's car crash will happen again. Drag her to the warehouse to change the source code of the picture. Ye Chen's eyes were sharp, and the anonymous SIM card sent a message. Sheng Yan's IP is connected to Gu Han's U-disk traces, and the sleeve poison test report is attached. The poisonous gas in the warehouse locks her remotely. The message flew into Qiao Zhixia's encrypted mailbox. His retreating figure stretched against the light and his loneliness was lengthened. His iron arms trembled slightly to suppress his deep feelings. Save her and never exceed the rules. Late at night in a hotel suite, Qiao Zhixia is sitting alone at the dressing table, her silk robe slipping off her shoulders and revealing her collarbone, which is flushed. The waves roar like angry beasts outside the floor-to-ceiling window, and the flames of candles flicker in the candid photos taken on the tablet. She is smiling brightly on the beach at the scenic spot, and the gentle art captured by Ye Chen's lens is like honey melting into the heart. She rubbed the picture with her fingertips, and the cracks in her heart wall expanded bloody, and the memories surged, the crisis of the evening dress skirt in the fitting room. He whispered Zhixia. The iron arms wrapped around his waist and heated and stirred the fire, discussing the design late at night. His professional vision was amazing. His Adam's apple rolled while cooking porridge, sharing the loneliness of childhood, carrying Sheng Yan in the bloody warehouse, and killing Wu Han in an instant at a medicinal wine banquet. Sweet daily life is like a knife twisting, tears falling and smashing the candlestick, flames dancing wildly, salty lips burning. Ye Chen Wolf? Or the only iron shield? She deletes the photos, her hands shaking like leaves, but her mailbox buzzes with anonymous clues. Sheng Yan's IP trace map, the poison test sheet with a red stamp of positive, Gu Han's warehouse location flashes. The psychological game is tearing like crazy. Believe him? The iron law of power destroys reputation. The career is on the verge of collapse, and the heart is filled with panic after freezing the relationship. Don't believe it? The irrefutable evidence of a mole has been searched like crazy. Hesitating with her fingertips hanging in the air, she took a deep breath of the sea breeze to suppress her tears. Plan counterattack. The authoritative queen woke up and called the hacker outsourcer. Chase the IP and lock Xingyan's call records. Renegotiate the alliance's funds and encrypt the source code backup. A small reversal was like a spark igniting a prairie fire, and employees whispered in admiration through the wall. The CEO is lighting up the night, and he is making a comeback against the wind. Ye Chen locked the message with eyes like a wolf, and smashed the table with his iron fist, sawdust flying and pungent. Location lock. He stood up and a ghostly figure flashed out. The conference room door banged loudly, and the sea breeze blew in and the documents were swirling around. Qiao Zhixia's heart was pounding wildly, and her heart was burning with the kiss last night. Why did she depend on him for her life, even if she risked her life to save her mole? Xiaomei trembled. Brother Yi broke into the tiger's den alone. Gu Han's bodyguards were a pack of wolves, and the bloody legend reappeared. The hook suddenly came. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the anonymous video on the phone exploded. Gu Han's sinister face filled the screen, and the rusty smell of the warehouse in the background of the waves filled his nostrils. Mr. Qiao, tie him up. Sheng Yan's dog-legged confession is complete, and the source code of the pictures will be handed over. Otherwise the car explosion will happen again, and the poisonous gas will be turned on by remote control. The scene switched and she was chained to the chair by a strong man. Her mouth was sealed with tape and she groaned. The black silk was broken and the bloodshot threads on her knees were stretched, and her vision was blurred by the drug effect again. There was a surge of screams outside the employee door. The president is missing. Gu Han's live broadcast threatens the end of the stars. Her heart twisted and struggled. Her authority was on the verge of collapse. Ye Chen's motorcycle roar flashed in her mind. Will he come? The cold violence freezes. The distress signal locates the hidden necklace and buzzes. He receives an iron fist and smashes the phone into cracks. His eyes are filled with murderous intent. The engine tears through the night and charges into the battle. The roar of the sea wind warms up the bloody battle. The peak of the crisis is reversed. Qiao Zhixia's vision was distorted in the mist of the drug's effects. The corrosive smell of seawater rust penetrated her nose like a lead hook. The thunder of the warehouse's iron door slamming shut reverberated, causing the iron chains to cut into the flesh of her wrists. The blood snaked along the broken black knees and dripped onto the concrete floor with a hissing sound, like the bells of the collapse of an empire. She struggled to get up. Her mouth sealed with tape turned into a beast's growl, and the waves roared outside the floor-to-ceiling window and mocked her disillusionment with authority. Just a moment ago, the hacker's IP tracking was still reversed. In the blink of an eye, Gu Han was ambushing her outside the hotel. Anesthesia needle pricked her neck and the ice and fire burned her. She couldn't even resist, and the Queen of Power was reduced to a chain plaything. On the giant screen, Gu Han's sinister face in a straight suit magnified like a ghost. There were many iron racks in the warehouse in the background, and the sour smell of leaking oil drums permeated the air. He raised a glass of red wine and swayed the blood. Mr. Qiao, sign it. Xingchen will give you 70% of the equity and all the autumn and winter source codes. Otherwise Xiao Li's car will explode live, and the poisonous gas will be activated remotely. Sheng Yan has surrendered. You freeze Ye Chen's useless traitor and clear the place. The screen switched to Sheng Yan, who was pretending to cry next to the chain-locked chair. The poison residue on her sleeves flashed green, and her eyes flashed with resentment. President, I have no choice but to cry and destroy the picture. Mr. Gu. Assistant Director Ye Chen. The U-disc was stolen from the cloud, and the hot search P pictures were secretly filmed. He was so ambitious that he tried to compose a video of you, and I personally confessed it. The strong men gathered around and laughed, and the rough iron palms slapped the cement and roared. Queen? Chain dog. Mr. Gu plagiarized the hot search and boosted the price by 500 million. The Xingchen stock market fell to 300 million and evaporated, and the employees exploded, accusing her of cold-blooded self-destruction of the Great Wall. Qiao Zhixia's heart was overturned, and she was swallowed up by despair like a tsunami. Ye Chen's figure in the iron tower was rescued with blood, cooking porridge tenderly, and trying on clothes with iron arms, all of which proved to be a backstabbing phantom. Her authoritative empire was reduced to ashes. Tears mixed with blood slipped down the tape, and her chest was as painful as 1,000 needles piercing her heart. Gu Han walked closer. The sound of his leather shoes hitting the ground was like the footsteps of the god of death. He tore off the tape on her mouth, and the sweet smell of blood hit her nostrils. Sign. Otherwise the poison gas valve will open and the lungs will be burned to ashes. He threw out a thick concession agreement, and the paper rustled. Like a poisonous snake spitting out a letter, a strong man smashes the table with his iron fist, deafening. Sign, sign, sign. The queen kneels down like a dog. Mr. Gu's empire swallows stars. Sheng Yan crawled close to her knees, her face contorted with hatred. President, you should have listened to me earlier. Ye Chen broke into the manor against orders. He killed 5 men in an instant and sold me the picture. My shoulder strap came loose and he was so handsome. You are blacklisting him. Sign now to save your life. Qiao Zhixia gasped and stared. Her voice was as hoarse as broken ice. Gu Han. Sheng Yan, you guys. Before she finished her words, the strong man's iron arm strangled her neck and the pain of suffocation broke out. The black edges of her vision expanded, and her desire to control power turned into a powerless struggle. The roar of Ye Chen's motorcycle engine flashed in her mind. He was permanently banned, and the Cold War was frozen. How could he come to save this messy queen? Sudden loud noise. The iron door of the warehouse is twisted and deformed like paper. The motorcycle engine roars and tears the night sky. The sea breeze rushes in with blood. Ye Chen's figure jumps in like a hell shura. The blood stains on the old shoulder penetrate the gauze. The new gun hole is burning and dripping blood. The iron fist has bent the nose of the first strong man. The crisp sound of cracked bones echoes, the blood mist splashes on the wall and flowers bloom. The men's eyes widened and bulged. Their legs weakened and they retreated as they hit the iron frame and screamed, "Monster! How can Ye Chen break into the forbidden waste? He's still bleeding from the gunshot wound." Gu Han's wine glass shattered on the ground. Red liquid splashed on his toes and trembled. "Shoot! It's his turn." The bullet hissed across the air. Ye Chen sideways dodged the cement explosion and sparks flew. The iron arm hooked the second man's neck and fought back. His cervical vertebra was broken. The sound was like a wooden stake hitting the ground, and the whites of the man's eyes rolled and twitched. A humanoid tank. One punch breaks the bones, a special kind of devil. Shang Yin screamed and crawled back, the chain dragging on the ground harshly. "Yi Lang! Get out, you secretly filmed the CEO and sold it to me on a USB flash drive. Hot search for irrefutable evidence." Ye Chen ignored it with sharp eyes, and hit the third man's abdominal cavity with his knee, causing his internal organs to shift and spurt out blood. The stench was overwhelming. "Shut up, you ghost." The scene was out of control. The warehouse lamps were shaking and flashing with cold light, and the iron pipes were waving and whistling. Ye Chen ducked and rolled to the ground to avoid it. He got up and elbowed the fourth man, dislocating his jaw, flying 3 meters and hitting the wall and fainting. Bloody teeth spilled on the ground like red beads rolling down. There were still 6 men left in the circle. There was a trembling sound. "Beat! Mr. Gu, we can't afford to lose if he fights for more than 10 people." Gu Han pulled out his gun and pulled the trigger. The bullets grazed Ye Chen's arm flesh and tore it apart. Fresh blood gushed into his iron arm. He roared and pounced on him. He grabbed the gun with his backhand and smashed the bent barrel of the gun, twisting the gold. Wailing, Gu Han knelt down on his knees to pee his pants, and the hot and humid smell filled the air. Spare my life. Shang Yan's confession is false." Ye Chen's iron fist stopped just a few inches from his neck and said coldly, "Say." The strong man hit Ye Chen's back with the last wave of iron rods. Ignoring the pain of broken bones, they turned around and swept the hall. The 3 of them flew up and hit the ceiling. The lights rained down with broken glass. The acrid smoke and dust choked their nostrils. They climbed up with fear in their eyes. "Ghosts and gods. They are bloody from gunshot wounds and still tormenting us. Bodyguard Demon King. Star Iron Shield is invincible." Shang Yin turned pale and screamed, "Ye Chen, you violated the order to save the president. I saw it with my own eyes." Ye Chen picked up her iron chain with one hand and threw her away, hitting Gu. They rolled on top of each other and wailed. His tablet projected anonymous clues and exploded. IP traces connected to Gu Han, red stamps on sleeve, poison positive reports, phone recordings, kidnapping, warehouse, lock her with the poisonous gas. Shang Yan's face turned pale, her legs were weak and she was incontinent. "No, it's fake." Her subordinates were all paralyzed and stared at the tablet with a trembling voice. "The ghost Shang Yan. The poison is trying to kill her." Mr. Gu joins forces, and Brother Yi heroically clarifies the irrefutable evidence. Qiao Zhixia's heart wall burst, and she burst into tears. "Ye Chen." She broke free with the sound of the tape tearing. The authoritative queen knelt down and threw herself into his arms. The iron arms around her waist were warm and familiar. The smell of blood and sweat hit her nostrils. She whimpered, "I wrongly frozen you on the blacklist. The Cold War tortured my heart. I love you. Starting from secretly photographing your smile and trying on clothes to seduce you." Ye Chen's Adam's apple rolled and suppressed his affection. His iron lips crushed her cherry lips, and the honey on his tongue was as hot as fire. In the mountains and warehouses, the sea breeze ruffled hair, and hot and humid kisses echoed. The subordinates fell to the ground with wide-eyed admiration. Forbidden love is true. The queen confessed in tears. Ye Chen risked his life to protect the flowers. The sweet and cruel heart was reversed. Gu Han crawled to escape. His legs were weak. "Forgive." Ye Chen stepped on his wrist and broke his wrist with a crisp crack. Gu Han screamed and fainted. At the peak of the crisis, the poison gas valve hissed and opened, and green mist seeped out, choking his lungs and burning. Ye Chen's eyes were locked with murderous intent. He smashed the remote control with his iron fist and sparks flew everywhere. The strong man stabbed his vest with the last stick. He pushed Qiao Zhixia to dodge, and the blade penetrated his flesh, tearing his heart and lungs and roaring in pain. Blood sprayed out on her white robe like plum blossoms blooming. Old and new gunshot wounds penetrated the bones of her shoulders and back. He groaned and knelt down on the subway tower. Zhixia, let's go. Qiao Zhixia screamed and rushed to tear her robe and crush her. Her bloody hands trembled. Ye Chen, don't fall. The authoritative empire needs your iron shield. She dialed the hidden necklace alarm, and the sirens were approaching sharply in the night. The red and blue flashes reflected the iron walls of the warehouse. The subordinates raised their hands and trembled. The police are here. Ye Chen calls the police. We are all going to attack. Gu Shang's conspiracy is leaked. The police rushed in with their iron boots tapping. The muzzle of the gun pressed against Gu Hanxingyan's forehead and the shackles clicked. Gu kidnapped a commercial spy, and the poison evidence was sealed. The employees screamed and worshipped in a remote live broadcast. President Ye Chen teamed up to reverse the situation. The hot search turned around, the Queen of the Stars is invincible, and the forbidden love sweet kiss exploded. She stood up and crossed her legs in black stockings, and the cold face in the mirror regained her authority. The psychological game turned around. She sacrificed her emotions to protect herself, and she made a strategic plan to kill the insider. Xinyan was under surveillance. Gu Han plagiarized the hot search and suppressed it. Ye Chen's clue or trap. No exceptions are made 24 hours a day, no exceptions. She murmured. Her desire for power and control was expanding to cover up her dependence, but she screamed about his iron tower figure in her heart. The emergency lights of Liming Hospital were glaring, and the disinfectant water was pungent and mixed with blood. Qiao Zhixia rushed into the intensive care unit with a broken leg. Ye Chen had 100 stitches on his shoulder and back, a pale face, and the monitor was beeping with a weak heartbeat. She pressed the doctor. Top plasma all the way. The doctor's legs went weak and he backed away. Mr. Yi refused to hold the VIP accountable and signed to be discharged at his own expense. Ye Chen glanced at her, his eyes dark and depressed. President, the contract is suspended. No need. She burst into tears on the edge of the bed, and the tug of war between iron law and love started again. Ye Chen, you risked your life to block the knife. I will hold Gu Shang's family accountable, and the stars will revive you, Vice President. He pushed away with trembling arms and his Adam's apple rolling. Tool, get out. The nurse outside the door widened her eyes and whispered. The Overlord Queen begged in tears. Ye Chen refused to torture her heart, and the forbidden love will continue to fight? The sea breeze seeped in through the cracks in the window, indicating that the storm was coming again. The pungent chill of the hospital's disinfectant penetrated Qiao Zhixia's bone marrow like an ice needle. There were still warehouse bloodstains on her broken black knees. The salty smell mixed with the sea breeze seeped in through the cracks in the window, as if mocking the powerlessness of her authoritative queen. Ye Chen's pale face was buried in the pillow. The bandage with hundreds of stitches on his shoulder and back was bleeding faintly. The monitor was beeping and his heartbeat was as weak as a candle in the wind. The doctors retreated to the corner with weak legs and whispered. Mr. Yi signed the discharge form at his own expense and refused to hold the VIP accountable. This bodyguard has a heart of stone. The queen begged to push him away in tears. Qiao Zhixia's chest felt like thousands of needles, and the revival of the power empire was imminent. The 500 million blood alliance discussed the hot search overturn again, but she knelt on the edge of the bed and burst into tears. Ye Chen, the vice president position is for you. The stars need your iron shield. His iron arms trembled slightly and he pushed her slender hands away. His Adam's apple rolled and he growled, Tool, get out. The nurse outside the door widened her eyes and gossiped tremblingly. Heart-crushing, bloody and sweet kisses in the warehouse, cold and forbidden love in a blink of an eye. The queen's blacklist is frozen again. 3 days later, the sun broke through the smog and filtered through the iron gate of Ye Chen's rental house. The smell of mold and rot in the corridor of the cheap apartment was overwhelming. Ants downstairs gathered around and whispered. That special soldier, with a bullet wound in a knife hole, singled out 10 men to save the queen. Hot search Ye Chen is invincible. How can she live in this poor house? Qiao Zhixia's Lamborghini engine roared as it stopped at the door. Her high heels clicked on the cement steps like war drums. She was wrapped in an off-white windbreaker, with tears on her cold face. She was carrying her beloved horse. The thermos was steaming, and Assistant Xiaowei's legs were weak. President Mr. Yi refused to be reinstated after 10 phone calls. Shang Yan confessed in prison and bitten the ghost in his USB flash drive. The employees were hesitant. Qiao Zhixia's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Shut up. The iron door knocked, and Ye Chen opened the door with his upper body naked. His shoulders and back were old and new scars like a map, and beads of sweat rolled down his abdominal muscles. His eyes were sharp and cold. President, the contract has been terminated. Her heart was in turmoil when the authoritative queen burst in through the crack of the door. The apartment was narrow and dusty, the iron bed was hard and there was no quilt. The range hood in the kitchen was buzzing and empty. The iron pot he was cooking porridge in was still warm. She threw her tears at the iron arm. Ye Chen, I was wrong. The warehouse is freezing you black. List, the tool of the Cold War to torture you. Love starts with secretly filming a smile, trying on clothes and flirting. Reinstated as vice president, pamper you for life. Neighbors looked around with eyes wide open, whispering tremblingly. The queen came to the broken house to apologize. Ye Chen, a bloody hero, refused, forbidden to fall in love with fire. The funeral is open, so handsome and heart-wrenching. Ye Chen's Adam's apple rolled and pushed away her waist, and the hot iron palm shrank like an electric shock, and he growled. You are not worthy of your status. Employer, get out. The thermos box hit the floor and the porridge splashed, and the hot aroma filled the air. She knelt down to pick up the tears mixed with rice grains. Boil your favorite preserved egg and lean meat, and I will pursue you with all my power. His iron door slammed shut, the lock cylinder clicked ruthlessly, her sobs echoed in the corridor, and the ants gathered around with weak legs. Ye Chen's iron stone rejects the queen, the tool man suppresses his affection, and the star's iron shield cuts off? In the top-level design room of the company, the giant screen of Xingchen Qiudong source code flashed, and employees whispered. The hot search turned over 500 million in blood. Gu Henshenjian locked up the commercial spy in shackles, but the ghost in the USB flash drive of Ye Chen's scandal is still there. The female How will Wang Yinhui clarify this? Qiao Zhixia threw her windbreaker to the ground and said coldly. The fake crisis calls Ye Chen back to protect her, and Shang Yan's remnant party's every little move is monitored. Xiaowei's legs went weak and she nodded. Shang Yan's inmate Xiaomei, yesterday's P-picture hot search queen. Bodyguard with black silk stockings and bloody body sells the picture. IP connects the remnants of the Gu family. Qiao Zhixia's authoritative eyes flashed. Let's go, the president has been assassinated. At midnight, Ye Chen's cell phone buzzed anonymously. Zhixia is attacked at the manor. Hurry up. The motorcycle engine roared into the night, and he ignored the burning of his shoulder and broke into the iron gate of the manor. He clenched his fists tightly and growled. Liar. She pounced on him, her lips pressed against his neck and heated up. Fake the crisis, but the heart is true. Cooking, designing exclusive suits, to keep you on guard. The light in the kitchen is warm and yellow. The beef tenderloin stir-fried in an iron pot is sizzling in oil, and the aroma is fragrant. She is wearing an apron and chopping green onions with her delicate hands. Mo Feiwu said. My robe is stained with blood from the knife in the warehouse. I love you, Iron Shield. The vice president is reinstated. Ye Chen's Adam's apple rolled and he sat at the table, his abdominal muscles trembling faintly. The neighbor's aunt peeked through the window and widened her eyes. The queen is cooking in her apron and teasing the hero. The forbidden love sweet pet is reversed. Is Ye Chen's heart moved? After dinner, she dragged him to the fitting room. The exclusive black velvet suit was spread out straight, and the iron arm sleeves were gilded. Ye Chen put it on exclusive to Vice President Xingchen. The power will spoil you. He lowered his head to try it on. The fabric rustled against his iron muscles, and the iron tower in the mirror stood tall. She jumped back and circled her waist, stroking her with her palms. His belly felt hot. The fitting evaluation. Perfect, the seduction starts from here. He gasped and suppressed, and he clasped her waist with his backhand, pressed his lips, and entwined her with wet and hot tongue. The figure reflected in the fitting mirror was distorted by the passionate kiss, and his breathing echoed like a volcano. Zhixia is not worthy. Her tearful eyes were fond of her. Deserving. Taboo Zhenghua. The next day, Shang Yan's small tricks broke out. The company's elevator roared to an emergency stop, and the smoke filled the nose with a green light that flashed as a sign of poisonous gas. Xiao Mei held the remote control and smiled ferociously. Sister Shang told me the queen's lungs will burn and she will die. The employee screamed and fell to the ground. Poisonous gas. Revenge of the remnants of the Gu family. Hot searches will explode again. Qiao Zhixia Quan said. Wei sneered. The hidden alarm was turned on. Ye Chen broke through the iron gate outside the motorcycle engine and jumped in. His iron fist hit Xiao Mei's remote control and sparks flew everywhere. The green mist dissipated. He kneed Xiao Mei's abdomen and her internal organs were displaced and spurted blood and fell to the ground. The mole. The security guards looked around with wide eyes and trembling. Ye Chen saves me again. His shoulder injury has not healed yet, and he smashed the remote control with one fist. The monster bodyguard is invincible. The star iron shield is back. Xiao Mei crawled on the floor to wet her pants and cried out in despair. Hundreds of millions evaporated, and he knelt down and hit the wall with blood flowing out. I mistrusted Shang Yan, and Queen Ye Chen joined forces to destroy my empire. The employees screamed in admiration during the live broadcast. The little tricks are all broken. Ye Chen defused the poisonous gas. The hot search clarified the scandal. And the USB flash drive anonymously revealed that Shang Yan's photos were all fake. The crystal lanterns in the giant hall of the annual meeting are as bright as the stars, and industry leaders gather to clink champagne. The hot search queen of the stars Ye Chen reverses forbidden love, has reached the limit of 500 million. Gu Han's desperate face is enlarged during the live video broadcast in prison. He is kneeling behind the bars with disheveled hair. The shackles clicked against the ground. Mr. Qiao is wrong. The kidnapping of the warehouse scared the shit out of me and shattered my dreams of life. The IP recording of Shang Yan's ghost poison locked me for 10 years. The star is revived and raised by 500 million. I regret biting the wall and bleeding. Shang Yan's inmate connected online with a fake pure face. Twisted and pale with diabetes and regret, she burst into tears. President, you've heard me destroy Ye Chen's blacklist. Now I'm shackled and choked. The ghost in the hot search dog's leg will be forever shamed. The pee picture provoked everyone to backfire, and the assistant's dream of cleaning the toilet is shattered. The big bosses opened their eyes wide and dropped their wine glasses. The ground shattered and they worshipped with trembling voices. Gu Hanxingyan is defeated and despairing. The queen's authority is invincible. Ye Shan's blood is an ironclad proof, and the industry alliance kneels down and licks 500 million. The employees screamed in waves. Exciting. The villain's remorse hits the wall and collapses. The Star Empire reaches its peak. Qiao Zhixia's style is unparalleled in Taiwan. Her long black stocking legs hit the marble with a crisp sound, and she held the microphone tightly. The scandal has been clarified. Ye Chen is not a mole. The warehouse has irrefutable evidence that Shang Yan and Gu Han colluded. He risked his life to block the knife and the vice president was reinstated. There was thunderous applause from the audience, and Assistant Xiao Wei's legs went weak, crying. The president's love is in full swing. Chasing his wife is so sweet in the crematorium. Under the sudden spotlight, Ye Chen appeared in a straight suit with gold threads on his exclusive cuffs flashing. He strode across the stage, wrapped his iron arms around her waist, and roared a confession that echoed throughout the audience. Zhixia stole from the scenic spot shooting smiles, trying on clothes to stir up flames, bathing in blood in the warehouse until now. I love you, not a tool, marry you. She burst into tears, the authoritative queen's cherry lips crushed and passionate tongue entangled. The hot and wet kiss was like a volcano erupting. The crystal lamp reflected the sweet figure, and the big boss employees were wide-eyed. The eyes were full of admiration. Confession on the stage. Forbidden love is the fruit of the annual meeting. Vice President Ye Chen and the two kings of stars. Eternal love is written. Gu Hanxingyan cried in despair in the video. No. The lingering sound of shackles dragging the floor, and the sea breeze outside the hall ruffled the curtains, heralding a new chapter in the empire. Crystal lights poured down like stars, and the sound of champagne bubbles crackling in the air of the huge hall was endless, mixed with the rapid gasps of industry bosses and the crisp sound of broken wine glasses. Qiao Zhixia's lips were still warm from Ye Chen's iron palm, and her long black stocking legs were trembling slightly as she leaned against the iron tower of his exclusive suit. Her authoritative eyes swept across the crowd of people in the audience. The employees' legs were weak and they screamed in worship. A passionate kiss on the stage. Vice President Ye Chen married the queen, and the forbidden love affair exploded at the annual meeting. Gu Han's disheveled figure behind the bars of the video chat was distorted and enlarged, and his shackles clicked and stained the ground with blood. With a pale face howling in despair. No, the twin kings of the stars will ruin my life. Inmate Shang Yan connected with the fake pure face, with faint tears and urine stains, and screamed, "Assistant, dream of cleaning the toilet. Spare your life." The bosses dropped their wine glasses and splashed ceramic tiles, wide-eyed and trembling. Gu Han and Shang Yan locked themselves up and hit the wall with regret. Ye Shan's ironclad evidence was exposed, and the queen's empire has soared to 500 million and is invincible. Ye Chen's iron arms hugged her slender waist, and the gold threads on his exclusive cuffs shone like blades under the light. His Adam's apple rolled and he roared, his voice like thunder blasting through the audience. The scandals don't stop. Gu Han's remnants of Xiaomei's elevator poison gas. It's not Shang Yan alone. He pulled out the USB flash drive from the inner pocket of his suit with his iron fist, wearing black silk stockings. The velvet shell reflects the light coldly, and the giant screen switches to the backstage. Anonymous clues and irrefutable evidence pop up. Shang Yan's IP connection to Gu Han's server positive report flashes in a red frame, and the phone recording of the kidnapping warehouse echoes coldly. Mr. Gu, the poison is hidden in Xiaomei's elevator, and the queen's lungs will burn to the stars and die. The video of the confession was followed up. The hot and wet odor of her diapers was still in the footage. She hit her knee against her internal organs and crawled to the ground, crying. Gu Han's family was sent to prison. $500 million evaporated and their dreams were shattered. Shang Yan ordered the P-picture to fake evidence and it all came back. The big bosses in the audience fell down in their chairs, and the smell of champagne and wine was mixed with sweat. Stinky, he exclaimed in a trembling voice. The final irrefutable proof. Ye Chen smashed the remote control in the warehouse with blood, dissolved the green fog in the elevator. All the remnants of the Gu family collapsed, and the stock price hit the daily limit. The employees live broadcasted the live broadcast of their mobile phones buzzing with hot searches. Star Ye Chen revealed the conspiracy. The queen and vice president teamed up to kill the enemy. The industry knelt down and licked the peak of the empire. Qiao Zhixia's heart lake surged with warmth, and the authoritative queen threw herself into the iron embrace. Her delicate hands caressed the old and new scars on his shoulders and pulsed with heat. Her long black silk legs knocked on the steps and made a crisp sound like a declaration of victory. Ye Chen, the vice president's iron shield will be forever. I will pamper you for the rest of my life and declare my sovereignty. She turned around and held the microphone tightly. Her cold face was bright and she was smiling brightly. She took the secret photo at the scenic spot, and the voice was overwhelming the whole audience. The stars are coming back. Gu Han Shengyan was locked up as a commercial espionage for 10 years. Resign. The thunderous applause in the huge hall was like waves. The bosses stood up and kowtowed. The champagne tower poured out foam and sweetness. The queen loves the vice president. The contrast is cute. The kiss on the stage was sweet. The stock price soared by 10 points. The empire is invincible. Ye Chen Tai's palm clasped her waist, and the camera captured the aftertaste of the passionate kiss. The wet and hot tongue entwining the figures, and the crystal lamp reflected the slender shadows of the two people's iron towers blending together. The employees screamed. The two kings worked together to defeat all enemies, and the Forbidden Love Zhenghua annual party will be remembered forever. After the annual meeting, the sea breeze blew in the scent of salty flowers from the curtain outside the hall. The industry leaders gathered at the signing table and worshipped with their legs soft. The documents were rustling and the fragrance of ink hit the nostrils. The 500 million alliance fund was discussed passionately. Mr. Qiao, Vice President Ye. The warehouse is full of blood and iron. The certificate is worth a fortune. All the IPs of Gu's remnants are locked, and the source code of Xingchen Chodong is the best. Assistant Xiaowei handed over the red wine with tears in her eyes, and followed with weak legs. President, the hot search Yishan reveals the final conspiracy and the stock price skyrocketed, topped the list, and the employees were clear. The photos on the USB flash drive were all fake, and Sheng Yan's video of regret in prison was forwarded by tens of thousands. Qiao Zhixia's unparalleled black silk swept over the signing paper, and the tip of her authoritative pen clicked. The trivial matter is over. The new season fashion show will start tomorrow. Ye Chen stood on the side of the Iron Tower. Cold wolf eyes swept over the trembling figures of the bosses, and growled, "Protection lasts." The bosses were sweating down their foreheads, whispering in admiration. Vice President Ye's monster bodyguard. The elevator's remote control shattered with one punch. The Queen's doting contrast. The Empire's iron shield is impeccable. Late at night in the manor, the waves beat against the shore like a heartbeat, and the moonlight shines through the floor-to-ceiling windows like silver gauze. Qiao Zhixia is wrapped in a silk robe and leaning on the iron arms. Her delicate hands are caressing the rustle of unbuttons of his exclusive suit. The iron plates on his abdominal muscles are hot and sweat is rolling down. Ye Chen, the tug of war is over. I refused to rent a house and went to the stage to confess, and my heart melted. His Adam's apple rolled and he suppressed his breath. He grabbed her waist with his backhand and crushed her lips with her wet tongue. His breath echoed like the embers of a volcano. Zhixia, marry you, not a tool. Her tearful eyes were doting on her, and her slender legs in black stockings were wrapped around her iron waist and heated and rubbed. We vowed to each other, and Vice President Xingchen's love was fully unleashed. We stood in front of the knife in the warehouse, tried on clothes, and flirted with the smiles at the attractions. They were all filled with love. The iron palm caressed the back of her neck, and the heat wave surged, and the silk robe slipped and fragrant. The snowy shoulders and muscles reflect the moonlight, and the two figures overlap and the sea breeze blows the curtains. They whisper like waves in the middle of the night. Eternal fruition. Forbidden love without regrets. The muffled sound of waves hitting the rocks outside the window indicates that a new chapter of the Empire is slowly unfolding in the calm aftermath. The next day, the lights on the catwalk of the fashion show were as dazzling as the light of a sword. The giant autumn and winter source code screen shone with black velvet new clothes and their streamlined lines. The click of high heels of the models echoed in the venue, and the scent of perfume mixed with new leather clothes hit the nostrils. The industry leaders gathered in the front row and whispered, "Star Revival Show? Guhan Xingyan's first battle after the defeat. The 500 million alliance is enthusiastically pursuing it." Qiao Zhixia's beige windbreaker wrapped around her body. Her cold face glanced authoritatively. Ye Chen's iron tower-fitting exclusive suit flashed with gold threads. Her wolf eyes looked around vigilantly. No trivial matter was left out. The first black velvet dress was rotated. On the catwalk, the friction of fabric rustled like the aftertaste of iron muscle fitting, and the audience screamed and applauded. Perfect tailoring. The bloody battle in the warehouse reversed the inspiration. The Queen's design genius is invincible. Xiaowei's legs were weak and she handed the tablet, and the hot search data skyrocketed. Great victory in the new season. Vice President Ye Chen escorted. The stock price continued to rise by 20 points, and all the treasures of the Empire's peak reputation were collected. The smoke from the warehouse cleared, and the waves hummed to witness. Qiao Zhixia supported Ye Chen's iron arm, and the corners of her blood-stained lips curved affectionately. He murmured, "The employer is just a tool." Her authoritative eyes were contrasted with doting, and she coldly ordered the police, "Arrest them all, renegotiate the funds of the industry alliance, and get 500 million back." She turned around and kissed his forehead hotly. "Taboo. Zhenghua." The police dragged Guhan away and Shengyan wailed, and the iron door closed with lingering sounds. The crisis was temporarily resolved like the eye of a storm. Backstage at the show, employees gathered around to worship the new clothes, and the hot scent filled their nostrils. The remnants of the Gu family have been wiped out. The video of Sheng Yan cleaning the toilet in prison will last forever. Vice President Yi resolved everything with his iron fist. Qiao Zhixia threw her arms around her waist and whispered, "My career is picking up, sweetheart. The harvest is in full swing." Ye Chen caressed her hair with his iron palm, and the salty sea breeze seeped in from the back door. "I love you, Zhixia." The big guys looked over and stared, gossiping. The sweet aftermath of the two kings, the doting contrast after the forbidden love, the overlord of the star fashion industry. The sea breeze blows in your face like a wild lover, mixed with salty waves and the fragrance of wild flowers. The sun breaks through the mist and falls on the edge of the sea cliff. The gravel cracks and crisps under the tap of Qiao Zhixia's high heels and echoes on the cliff. The hem of her off-white trench coat flew wildly, her long black stockings legs stepped steadily. The steaming warmth was faintly emitting from the Hermes box in her hand. Her bright smile was better than the candid photo taken back then, and her authoritative eyes locked onto Ye Chen's figure in the iron tower. The golden thread of his exclusive suit flashed like a knife blade in the sun. His Adam's apple rolled and his eyes were deep. The Lamborghini engine was still roaring with residual heat, and the car door slammed shut, shaking the air. Zhixia, is this? The view from the cliff was endless, the waves crashing against the rocks with a roar like a heartbeat speeding up, and tourists in the distance whispering sparsely, staring wide-eyed to capture this pair of industry legends. Qiao Zhixia handed over the box with her slender hand, her lips slightly raised in provocation. Ye Chen, from sneak shots at scenic spots to passionate kisses at annual gatherings, it's your turn to take over the sweet pet bombing. He took it with his iron palm, and rustled open the suede box cover. Hot air mixed with the scent of caramel cream. A diamond ring set with black velvet and sparkling in the sunlight, with the words "Iron Shield is forever. I will marry you forever," engraved on the inside. Ye Chen's iron arms trembled. His usually cold wolf eyes suddenly moistened like the eve of a rainstorm. His Adam's apple rolled violently and he growled, "Zhixia." She threw herself into Tai's arms, her black stocking's slender legs clicked against the gravel. Her delicate hands caressed the buttons of his exclusive suit, and her abdominal muscles pulsated with the heat of iron. Vice President Tai Quan, from tool to husband, our vows are proven today. The sea breeze ruffled their hair, the waves whispered, and the mobile phones of tourists from far away buzzed live. Oh my God! Queen of the Stars proposes to Ye Chen? The hot search is scheduled to explode. The sequel of Forbidden Love. The diamond ring on the cliff is so sweet. A heat wave surged on the top of the cliff, and the two figures overlapped with iron arms around their waists. The hot and humid breaths echoed like a volcano erupting, and the Hermes box rolled down the gravel and clinked against each other. But just as the aftertaste of the passionate kiss lingered, amidst the roar of the waves, a piercing roar of helicopter propellers exploded into the sky. The private plane of the industry leader swooped down the cliff, and the cabin door slid open. Gu Han's prison video projection was projected onto the cliff like a giant screen. His disheveled shackles clicked and were stained with blood when they hit him, and his pale face was distorted and howled in despair. Qiao Zhixia, the dream of the 500 million star alliance is shattered. My remnant Xiaomei escapes from prison, and the poison gas elevator is heavy play. Destroy your autumn and winter show. The projection flickered of Xiaomei's hot and urine-stained figure in the prison robe. Her internal organs were displaced and she crawled to the ground crying. Mr. Gu sent a message, the whole family was revenged. Shang Yan's new evidence of P-picture in prison. The Queen's black velvet source code was stolen positive. The tourists on the edge of the cliff screamed and fell to the ground. Their mobile phones were broken and scattered, and the smell of sweat mixed with the smell of the sea hit their nostrils. Gu Han's ghost is not gone? Xiaomei's prison escape poison gas. The peak of the Star Empire is going to collapse. Qiao Zhixia's authoritative eyes flashed. Her cold face turned pale and she leaned against the iron chest. Her long black stocking legs trembled slightly. Ye Chen, the final remnant? Ye Chen's iron tower erupted. His wolf eyes were as red as a beast. He smashed the Lamborghini's hood with his iron fist, making a dull sound as the metal dented. Exclusive suit, the gold thread on the cuffs tore and rustled. Young beauty remnant? I've been bloody in the warehouse elevator, but the irrefutable proof is still there. He roared with his Adam's apple rolling, and pulled out the spare USB flash drive from the inner pocket of his suit. The black velvet shell reflected the sunlight coldly, and pressed the button on the edge of the cliff to start the portable projector. The giant screen switches and irrefutable evidence pops up. Xiaomei's jailbreak IP is connected to the server in Shang Yan's prison. The positive flashing red box. The phone recording echoes coldly. Sister Shang Yan. Mr. Gu asked the P-picture source code to fake evidence. The poisonous gas hidden in the elevator sleeve will explode the Queen's lungs. Shang Yan's inmate followed up via video link. Her toilet mop was splashed with water and the stench hit her nostrils, and her knee-shattered diarrhea screamed, "Spare my life." The assistant's dream was shattered and he was shackled for 10 years. The P-picture backfired and invaded the whole family's prison. The Ye Chen monster regretted hitting the wall and bleeding. The tourists stared with wide eyes and worshipped with soft legs, trembling and whispering. Ye Chen used the USB flash drive as a magic touch. Xiaomei Xingyan's dream of breaking out of prison was shattered. Gu Han's video chat was full of despair. And the star iron shield was invincible. The helicopter circled and hummed. The bosses in the cabin dropped their wine glasses and splashed tiles. The champagne bubbles burst and jingled, mixed with the smell of sweat. They stood up and kowtowed in front of the projection. Their legs went weak and they exclaimed, "Vice President Ye's prediction is accurate. The IP of the Little Beautiful Remnant Party is fully locked. And the source code for autumn and winter is exclusive. The 500 million alliance is safe to continue to rise." Warm currents surged in Qiao Zhixia's heart lake. Her black silk legs struck the gravel with a crisp sound like a declaration of victory. The authoritative pen tip pulled out the tablet from the windbreaker, and the live broadcast button buzzed. Industry live broadcast. Guhan Shengyan Xiaomei's final irrefutable evidence is exposed. The Stars The Black Velvet Show continues to dominate the list, and the stock price has reached the limit. Tourists on the cliffside screamed, and mobile phones were hotly searched. Ye Chen killed the enemy on the top of the cliff with a USB flash drive. The queen proposed a diamond ring and it was sweet and sweet. The empire is at its peak forever. Ye Chen's iron arms hugged her slender waist, and his wolf eyes whispered lovingly, "Zhixia, I will protect you forever and marry you." The sea breeze blew the curtains and trembled. The waves hummed like thunderous applause. The helicopter circled and fled in a hurry. Gu Han's projection distorted and collapsed, and the bloodstains and howls echoed on the cliff. No, the whole family is locked up in regrets for the rest of their lives. The crisis disappeared and the sun shone brighter on the sea cliff. Qiao Zhixia picked up the Hermes box and smiled brightly at the scenic spot. She put her delicate hand on Ye Chen's iron palm and put on the black velvet diamond ring. The heat pulsed and blended. "Ye Chen, my husband's iron power, from refusing to rent a house to swearing to each other on the top of the cliff. The forbidden love has no regrets." His Adam's apple rolled and buckled her waist. His iron lips pressed against her cherry lips and his tongue was wet and hot. Her breathing echoed like the embers of a volcano. "Zhixia, I will pamper you for the rest of my life." The contrast is huge. Tourists from afar were weak-limbed and watched and worshipped. The live broadcast data skyrocketed. The two kings kissed passionately on the top of the cliff. Ye Chen wore a ring and sweet pets exploded. And the hot search star Empire Iron Wedding dominated the world. The boss's helicopter returned and signed the contract with enthusiasm, and the documents were rustling and ink was fragrant. "Mr. Qiao, Vice President Yi, the U-disc is worth 1,000 gold. The Autumn and Winter Alliance signed 1 billion, and the remnants of the Gu family will be wiped out forever." A few weeks later, the Crystal Hall of Star headquarters was flooded with light like a river. The Autumn and Winter fashion show continued with the dazzling lights of the T-stage. The models' high heels clicked and reverberated with crisp sounds. The smooth lines of the new black velvet clothes rustled like the aftertaste of a fitting. The scent of perfume mixed with leather was gathered in the industry. Qiao Zhixia was wrapped in a white wedding dress, and her cold face looked authoritatively at the crowd. The gold thread of Ye Chen's exclusive dress stood on the side of the iron tower, flashing, and her wolf eyes looked around vigilantly. Everything is trivial. The first black velvet wedding dress rotated on the catwalk, and the fabric reflected the sparks of the diamond ring. The audience screamed and applauded. Perfect Empress. Inspiration from the U-disc of the bloody battle on the cliff top in the warehouse. The queen's husband has an invincible design. Employee Xiaowei handed the tablet to her with soft legs. Hotly searching, the Star Iron Wedding Show is a success. The stock price soared by 30 points, and the empire is the best in the world. The bosses stood up in the front row to kowtow, and the champagne tower was poured with foam and sweetness. Backstage at the show, employees gathered around to worship the hot scent of their new clothes. Xiaomei's dream of escaping from prison and cleaning the toilet was shattered. Sheng Yan's shackles hit the wall and blood flowed. Mr. Yi resolved everything with his iron fist. Qiao Zhixia threw her hands around her waist and whispered, "At the peak of your career, your sweetheart will bloom forever. Continue." The boss raised his head with eyes wide open and gossiped tremblingly. The sweet aftermath of the Empress, the warm-up of the new season's global tour. The dynasty is invincible after the forbidden love comes true. Late at night in the manor, the waves crashed on the shore with a dull sound like a heartbeat. The silvery moonlight shone on the floor-to-ceiling windows. The silk robe slid off the snowy skin, and the two figures overlapped and whispered in the waves. Eternal love. The two kings of stars write a new chapter. Half a year later, Paris Fashion Week's tea-table lamps were like a galaxy, and the Black Velvet Empress series shone across the world. Qiao Zhixia's unparalleled black silk swept over the signing paper, and the authoritative pen tip made a crisp sound. The 10 Billion Alliance kowtowed enthusiastically. Mr. Qiao, it is ironclad proof that the dynasty is worth 10,000 gold. Ye Chen escorted the Iron Tower. Wolf eyes scanning the trembling boss, he roared. Protection is sustainable. The employees hummed in the live broadcast. Star Global Overlord. Ye Chen dotes on his wife. The contrast is igniting, and the hot search will always dominate. But in the smile of the old photo taken secretly on the cliff, a new suspense loomed. An anonymous email flashed: new enemy undercurrent, air iron shield to be tested. The sea breeze blows and a new climax of the empire quietly begins. The two kings join hands and are not afraid of wind and rain. A few days later we visited the scenic spot again. The sun pierced the mist and fell on the sea cliff. The Lamborghini engine roared and stopped on the cliff. Qiao Zhixia was wrapped in a white windbreaker. Her high heels clicked on the gravel, and the Hermes box in her hand was steaming faintly. She looked back at Ye Chen's figure in the Iron Tower with a bright smile, her eyes sparkling with surprise. Ye Chen, sweet pet bombing continuation. Starting from here to secretly shoot her smile. Are you ready for a surprise? The sea breeze ruffled her hair and mixed with the salty fragrance of the waves. His Adam's apple rolled and his wolf eyes were deep. Zhixia. The view on the edge of the cliff is endless, indicating that a new climax of forbidden love is quietly beginning.